Hello everyone, let's see, how's this going to work today? Well, that looks okay, and that looks sort of okay, although it's not how it's going to look in the end. Hello everyone, let's see if this is working. Google Chrome not responding. Now it's responding. Ah, that's better. I've got this. And that seems to be going okay. And let's see. Hello everyone. As you can see, I am in my office. My new office. Hello King's Rook. Hello live chat. Hello, let's see. How are we doing? Carl Gasberg, hello. Maybe the Bruships observed by the latter-day biplane. Okay. Oh, right. So, things I'm learning about this office quite quickly. One, that bookshelf which I'm going to be putting in on this level. The next bookshelf down is going to be the prime bookshelf, especially when I am moved slightly across in sort of this direction and I'm situated here, which is where I will normally be in terms of viewing, because I'm going to have my next bookshelf down to about here, and then I'm going to have a model railway in this sort of area, this sort of level. So, yeah, that should all be quite good. And then more bookshelves below. Today's books are a mixture of Naval Institute Press and Transactions, which I can spin you around and I can show you some of. I got enough of my dad's boxes out. So we have up there everything from 1911 till 1939. Broadly speaking, some of it on its side. It's fun. And, well, hello. How are you all doing? And by the way, just so you know, you're not on my desk. You're on my workbench. Yes, I haven't yet got my desk in here. But, hey, it's actually better than it could have been, and I think I am going to change from the top light to the little ring light. So give me a second. Right then. And that, I think, makes me look better, but slightly more shadowy in this particular context. Hello, everyone. How are we doing? This is the Bruships After Dark. Oh, I'm going to have to sort out this lighting stuff, aren't I? Oh, let's see. Right. Hello, Calvin Gasbeck. Hello, Peter Dawson. Hello, Financial Intelligence. Hello, Rick Basala. Hello. Hello, John Shea. Hello. Cahedron. That reminds me, I haven't done one thing yet, and I need to find my phone to be able to do that. I put it down somewhere, he said. There it is. Right now, quickly, while I'm doing this, I have to be able to send a message. Say, I am live and it's working, to a very special ladies. And that is because I was surprised. There was part of me which was thinking this wasn't going to work tonight, because it's been quite a lot to even get it to this level. And I know it doesn't look like I got it that far, but trust me, it's taken a while to get here. And let's see. So it's not as the normal colourful background in terms of books, but you can see where the books are going to be, because there's going to be another bookshelf there. It's going to be iron brew bottles there, and possibly another bookshelf in this corner. Possibly. But we'll see. We'll see. Things have got to be worked out, as have all these things. But hey, we're alive. Right then, hello. We just said hello to Financial Intelligence. And Bart Foster, hello. I don't think I've seen you for a while, so hello. Not a Wolf, hello. Stafford Thompson, hello. Hello, DGB40. Hello, Vice Admiral Nelson. Hello, let's see, Grace Sadowski. Hello, Kihidran again. Not Blueship Buddha. Hello. Paul Johnson. Hello, good evening. And New IKB 442. Hello. It's always good to be joined by Isambard King and Brunel. And Aviate Enterprise. Hello. Ooh. Financial, good God, the British have developed invisible bookshelves. No, I'm building them. Slowly. And actually, no, actually not that slow, although it does feel like it sometimes. Because it takes me, I'd say, about... each shelf probably takes me about 4 hours work to get up, which sounds like a really long time. But it's when you realise that every single one of these walls is not quite at the right angle, and you're trying to make straight and level shelves, plus the fact that I'm working with offcuts and they've managed to bend and break some of the wood, then you realise that I'm spending a goodly portion of that time measuring, treble measuring, and quadruple measuring again. It's like, this one has 2 pieces of wood, as you can see, one forward, one back at the back, running along the wall. One at the back, 228.5 centimetres. One at the front, 227.8 centimetres, i.e. there's a 0.7 centimetre difference. And I've managed to sculpt that the whole way through on the thing, on the bits as well, on the sort of shelving as well. So you don't see it, but it fits. And then for some reason, out at this end, it's 229 centimetres. Don't get me started, okay? Just don't get me started. Ooh, Paul Johnson, 30th of March, £23.09 on my Amazon for your book. Cool. £23.09. I'm trying to work out how much of that will work on me, for me, but you know. Cajun, how would a workman that bad? Well, before we get into the books, and this is actually something interesting to talk about when we're talking about the books. But first I'm getting some iron brew. Here's the thing. This is the wall, how you construct the walls. And if you really need to, bop with a mallet. And they managed to muck that up. In fact, I can show you exactly how badly they mucked it up, in that they missed out an entire layer of wall. In that there was so much wood left over, we were going, hang on, we think something's not quite right here. When we did the measurements, we found an entire layer of wall was missing. Yes. It's a lot of fun. It's been interesting. We'll just say it's been interesting. And I'll angle this down a bit more. So I'm broadly speaking in the centre. Oh. Who did the cover art for it? Well, So far, the art that's appeared is some cards from my girlfriend. Actually, I have to admit, that's a nice thing so far. Needs some echo dampeners, probably though. Probably will need to sort that sort of thing out. And yes, but it's better than it used to be. It means I don't have to be talking from next to my bed anymore, which is always a good thing. And, well, when I laugh, and don't take this the wrong way, I can do this now. And that just comes out perfect. Seriously, every time. Inspect the jackknife. Sounds like you managed to get some yeehaw jackaroos. It's interesting because we got them from recommendations, and everyone else they've worked for, they have done great work. But what we have a feeling is that they just expanded, and basically they're taking on more jobs, and the same guy's trying to oversee all the jobs, including those done by his new workers. And, yeah. This is what happens. Well, no. We've got a fair number of books up there. We've already got about 20, 30 books up there. And there's going to be a few more boxes to come. Definitely a few more boxes. Probably going to need to tighten that screw up at some point. But hopefully... And that... turn out. Yeah, that's all. Well, no, that's quite cool. Right, so... let's start off with, before we get into the Naval Institute press, the sort of transactions of the Naval Institute, of the Institute of Naval Architects. I'm going to show you some new books which I've got, and some have been sent to me to review, and one was someone asked me if I would look at a book, and I said, well, yeah, I'll get it, and I did, and I thought, how good is that book? It's pretty darn good. So. First things first, I should have done this already a second ago, but this shows you I wasn't thinking. I was so worried about getting the electronics working, I forgot the more sensible thing, like and that very simply solves the problem behind me of where to stick books. Yes, tonight is going to be very Heath Robinson, but hopefully things are going to improve quite quickly. That's the point, anyway. That is the point. That it is going to get better, but this is sort of putting the work I've been doing in terms of the online stuff and in terms of my own research on a more professional footing space size, if that makes sense. From now on, I have the space. Although, I have to admit, it has been interesting, and I have had a lot of help from a very good friend. In that, whilst I've done the fairest share of the work on my own, I will say, quite a lot of the work would not have been doable without the assistance of a very special builder who came in to help me out, who happily, kindly, very much so, works for Iron Brew and Pizza. It's not many builders you've got who can do that. Right, and who will do that? Not a wolf. With the books and stuff, the sound will get better. It will get a lot better. Good evening, outside ski. Right then, first book. That sounds very helpful, Stafford Thompson. Let's see. Here's the question. Do we risk my temporary table with my iron brew? We do. And we hope that looks okay. There you go. Oh, as I think I've shown you before in one of the building videos. Even better, it does this. Lightsaber. Flick around. Blaster. For the practical Jedi on the go. Or alternatively, if you make it Sonic, the practical Time Lord on the go. Hello, Samuel. Ay, caramba. So, first reason. The reason why I haven't been uploading the monitor videos, because this has finally arrived. And I ordered it, and it kept saying it was going to be months more. And so I did the monitor videos, and then this arrived, which is the concise history of the Dover Patrol by none other than Admiral Reginald Bacon. He wrote it himself. And the foreword is by Admiral of the Fleet Earl Jellicoe, and this book itself was published in (1934), I think. Yes. No, 1932. Oh, hello. Looks like we might be joined by a fluff. Now, you have to remember they have an advantage here because it's all a lot on the ground floor, so they can come visit far more easily, which means they should be enjoying it. This is a very cool book, but there's a question just come in. Ay, caramba. That's fine. Michael Brent, Dr. Clark, I have a question. I recently heard on a raid on December 27, 1941, on Jarland, which is claimed to be the first offensive action America took in World War II, PBY Capeline. Is this true? Barring patrols, which, whether you call them defensive or offensive depends on your perspective, yes, more than likely that is the case. I can't think of another one. Anyway, when the big thick book has concise in title. Hello, Melody 1640. Yes, and yes. This is absolutely. Look, how many histories are written by one of the people who commanded it? Because at one point, Bacon is the commander of the Dover Patrol, and then he goes and researches all the history, all the operations they get up to. He knows the waterways intimately himself. There are very few who do this. You know, he's got his own personal pictures of who was involved, who was doing what, and look, it's the foreword I'm going to read to you all because, frankly, this will tell you why I have done this and why I have held up the videos and I'm re-recording videos. Sir Reginald Bacon gives, in his preface to this book, the reasons for its production. He has compressed into this single volume the main features of his earlier work and has incorporated into it much new matter of interest. Unquestionably, the work of the Dover Patrol during the war was of the very utmost importance to the Allied cause. As is so clearly pointed out in the pages which follow, it involved the safeguarding the passage of our troops, munitions and stores across the Channel, and protecting the ships of the mercantile marine which to the average number of 100 passed Dover daily, carrying food to the Thames and ports of our east coast. Traffic with which it would have been impossible for our railways to deal with had the channel been closed to our ships by enemy vessels or mines, and the goods landed alternatively in western ports. The patrol had the additional task of cooperating with the left flank of the army in Flanders. Important as was the work of the patrol in the early stages of the war when German vessels had no base nearer than the Ems, its importance became immensely magnified when the enemy, by their occupation of the Belgian coast, became possessed of the bases available for destroyers and submarines at Zeebrugge and Ostend. Bases within 72 and 62 miles respectively of Dover, or within 2 hours steaming in a destroyer. The German destroyer force on the Belgian coast having always the initiative, besides being far stronger than the destroyers of the Dover Patrol, could be certain of being immensely superior in force in an attack of any portion of our necessarily scattered patrol line. And it was a astounding wonder that so little advantage was taken of this fact by enemy forces raiding the cross-channel traffic or attacking the vessels at anchor in the Downs. As Sir Reginald points out, our destroyer force at Dover was never, owing to the general shortage of destroyers in the fleet, adequate for the work with which it would be called upon to carry out in the face of the enterprising enemy. And this fact alone added immensely to the anxieties and responsibilities of the Admiral commanding the patrol. Hello, Big Fluff. Shall I move this out of your way? I know, terrible. A box was in your way. Hello. Hello, you. All right. Hello. Hello. We'll come out to see everyone in the new office. Yes. Main major factor of the new office, of course, is going to be designing a suitable space for this one.
Well, I think they've decided they want beds.
They have decided they want beds underneath the railway.
Those.
Yes, both will be getting beds underneath the railway. I don't know. Right then. Ooh, that'd be fun. A dark oak with crackling fire would be really quite fun. But now I have got a fluffy research assistant out here to keep me company and all my tootsies, which is always nice one. Hello. Thought that Adam Finland thought the shed would be stained as dark oak. It might be at a certain point. I think it's more likely to be orange. Oh, hello. Yes, there'll be a proper bed for you soon. You've marked out your spot. I don't know. Yes, that was Raleigh, and that was him coming to say hello. Anyway. Readers of this book will realise the wide range of work of the patrol, the masterly manner in which Admiral Bacon planned the various operations carried out on the Belgian coast, and a striking inventive genius in regard to detail which characterised those operations. Perhaps the climax was reached in the planning of and preparation for the landing in 1917 of 14,000 men with tanks and artillery on the Belgian coast in the face of strong German batteries. This landing could not, unfortunately, be carried out owing to the advance of the army on the Roulers, being held up by abnormally bad weather. The climax of audacity was undoubtedly the institution of the Belgian Coast Patrol. Admiral Bacon gives in the last chapter of his book the reasons which led him to inaugurate this patrol and its effect on enemy operations. This is published in 1932. I don't think there is a current version of it available. Today, it's going to be slightly different as I'm going to be reading books out and I'll put them in afterwards this evening. But this one is one I want to show you because it's the reason the Monitors videos have been held up. Because when this finally arrived, I read through it and went, I am not publishing any more after episode 1. All the rest will have to be rewritten because the only one which can be published as is episode 1, because the only one which had the content I want to put in was episode 1. Now let's see for orange. Going to see about getting the colour of Iron Brew. Drakenfell and I have a little project. I hope the frame rate's okay. $7,000, not actually marked. No. He just sniffed and decided. Well, basically, they're also going to be the railway's going to be. As I said, it's going to get another book level. And it's going to be railway about this level. So, yeah. Because that's the thing. The railway doesn't need much more space than a shelf. Hello, Shana. It's going to need to be slightly wider, which is going to why it's going to be sort of lower. Anthony, given the t-shirt look, do you have a heater going, or are you just Geordie? No, but I am half Scottish, half Cornish, which tends to work out. But I am also slightly cheating in that I do have a heater on low power down here. But it's very low power and it's on a time switch. So it goes off in a couple minutes. See? Basically, my view is that heating, spending money on those sort of things is... That's excellent. I've turned out the top light. Illumination-wise, it was too much. So, these are brand new books, which will appear in the Amazon new book list I usually have on Amazon. And they are rather fantastic. One of these I was asked to read by someone on the channel. I forget who. Someone sent me a Discord message about it. And I said, would I have a look at it? And this one turned up, and the two I'm going to talk about together, because they do need to be talked about together, because they're really good together. Then there's this one. But I'm going to start off with this book. What Ship, Where Bound? A History of Visual Communication at Sea. And it's the book which really needed to be written, in my mind, because considering some of the questions we have been dealing with over various issues to do with... Yeah, I have got sawdust all over me. This place is going to have to be cleaned down properly at some point. The shells are all clear. And underneath the shells are fine. The shells are fine. It's this level below is covered with sawdust. It's basically slowly being cleaned down and out. But this book, What Ship, Where Bound? A History of Visual Communication at Sea by David Craddock. And it's the book you needed to have written, really. Because it's only $12.99. Seems quite cheap, really, for the quality of information in it. And it's small. It's got everything you need. You want to talk about the flags? That's got that in there. Always good for the Discord channel. It has all the commercial codes, the international codes, the British code, the American code. It's got pretty much every code you can sort of talk about in terms of the things. Let's put the list on. We have got timeline and flag signaling, of course, continuity and change, long distance information, colorful storm, and then ensigns and etiquette, knowing who's who. Nelson Confides, decoding the Trafalgar signal, commercial codes, British and US naval codes, land ends and forwarders, signaling ship to shore, unintended consequences, sending mixed messages, reaching limit, signal success and failure at Jutland, flags flying, they should have had, I don't know, Dogger Bank in there as well as Jutland. Flags flying still, the continuing role of flag signaling at sea, Bravo Zulu merchandise and marketing, Star Wars orders, signal flags in yacht racing, comparative alphabets, signals looking for a purpose or semaphore going to sea, wigwag at war, signaling during the Civil War, I think that's the American Civil War, semaphore exchanges at Jutland, critical information, semaphore and popular culture, protocols and procedures. It's cram full. It really is. And this is one of the things I like about it. I'm not sure you can see. It has here a chart, and it goes. This is what it's used normally at 1,000 yards. You can see through a telescope, in smoke through a telescope. It really does make it interesting, and it's one of those books which is almost interactive. Although it is a bit defensive of Beatty, which I'm not quite sure about, but we'll leave that to one side. How you can tell who's who comes up quite a bit, including the modern NATO one. And it is a gorgeous book. And you start to think, ooh, semaphore. Can I start using this for signaling in my real life? Tempting. Definitely tempting. Let's see. Where's a nice chapter to read out so you get an idea of the text, really? Let's do this. Land's End orders. Signaling a ship to shore. Before radio enabled ship owners and their agents to communicate directly with ships at sea, the only means of passing instructions to masters or receiving information on their safe passage was by visual signal to a coast signal station. For the last 3 decades of the 19th century, most of the growing number of Lloyd signal stations were connected to the electric telegraph, and by Act of Parliament in 1888, Lloyds were mandated to connect all their stations to the Post Office Telegraph Network. Within 3 years, there were some 40 such stations around the coast of the British Isles, and 118 established worldwide by 1923. That number had risen to 134. Lloyd's in primary interest was in the safety of ships whose insurance risk they bore. For ship owners, an equal benefit was the ability to control more precisely the routing and scheduling of those ships, which with increasing competition for lucrative cargoes. Shipping companies began to offer a liner service with regular departures and scheduled arrivals. However, some cargoes, particularly oil in bulk, discharged ports were often uncertain depending on refinery capacity, and not at least the price the oil could fetch. However, homeward bound masters would be instructed to proceed to Land's End for orders, at least a week's passage after leaving the Suez Canal, before learning their final destination. In practice, although, there was a Coast Guard signal station on the Gwinnett Head, just south of Land's End itself, not now part of the National Coast Watch network. Ships, whether expecting orders or not, would routinely exchange signals using the international code, the only one recognised, with the Lloyd's signal station, either on St Mary's or the Lizard. Reports on their passage, whether inbound or outbound, would then be passed by telegraph to their owners and published in the daily Lloyd's List and Shipping Gazette. This is a lovely little book. So, if you're interested in communications, and at $12.99, I can't imagine it's that much. It's that much in US dollars, but it's not that much in British pounds. Published 2021, so it's brand new. What Ship Where Bound? Really, really cool book. I really loved it. So that amount of detail is amazing. Used to know a few signals, but I'm afraid I've forgotten now. Menacing front. Oh, didn't the French have some land-based semaphore stations? They did. Hello, Dr. Carl. Anne of London. HMGPO were the Huawei of 1900. Yeah. Everywhere and anywhere. It also has things like the Battle of Martinique, things in here as examples of mixed messages, and the various special flags, which is quite cool. Then you start to realise that the phonetic alphabet from 1937 goes in Abel, Baker, Charlie, Dog, Easy, Fox, George, Howe, Item, Jig, King, Love, Mike, Nan, Oboe, Peter, Queen, Roger, Sugar, Tear, Uncle, Victor, William, X-Ray, Yoke, and Zebra. Now, let's consider what it was 22 years earlier in 1915. Apples, Butter, Charlie, Duff, Edward, Freddie, George, Harry, Ink, Johnny, King, London, Monkey, Nuts, Orange, Pudding, Queenie, Robert, Sugar, Tommy, Uncle, Vinegar, William, Xerxes, Yellow, and Zebra. Now, during the Battle of the Bulge, there is a famous message sent by McAuliffe. When he's asked to surrender, he sends the message, nuts, back to the Germans. Now, I think, as a gentleman of his vintage, he would have known the 1915 phonetic alphabet, so I'm fairly sure he would have been quite happy just to fly a single flag of N to them. For no, or nuts. Garmin, my friend was watching the live and said you gave me a nickname. Please explain. Did I give you a nickname? I just call you Carl normally. King's Rook, I prefer the modern NATO alphanetic alphabet. We all do. Back to the Battlefield one. $24.95. So slightly more, but I still think it's worth it. If you're interested, this is definitely a cool book to have. And I am honest, this was a book sent to me to review for free. So the only thing you can say is buying my love of it is that it cost me nothing. But honestly, if I didn't like it, I'd tell you, because it cost me nothing. And I am quite honest when I don't like books. Right then. So that's a cool book. Next book. Ships of the Royal Navy by J.J. Coleridge, Ben Hallrow, and Stephen Bush. Now, you have seen me refer to my older version of this on a regular basis. Well, this is the brand new one. And if I can get someone, someone does a version which is the US Navy, I will be a very, very happy man, because frankly, the US Navy, the Japanese Navy, and the Royal Navy are the three navies I'm always hunting books and names of. This is the new up-to-dated one. And it's got even lists of... You know, I was talking the other day about the various systems of rating ships. Well, it's even got the rating system in it to explain it and go through it. And it has all the way down to 6th rate. Ships built in 1677, after 1716, after 1740, after 1757, after 1792. What I love is after 1792, it has first rate 110 guns, first rate 100 guns, second rate 98 guns, second rate 90 guns, third rate 80 guns, large 74, 28 gun, common 74, and then a fifth rate. So fourth rate seems to have disappeared somewhere in there, and then there's fifth rate 38 and fifth rate 36. And large 32, sort of the different guns they have. Large 32, common 32, this is sort of 6th rate, and sloop 18, sloop 16 guns. And you sort of go, what are the difference between the large and the common? Well, the large, case of the large 32 of the 6th rate, has 26 12-pounder guns and 6 9-pounder, whereas the common 32 has 26 18-pounders in the large 32 and 26 12-pounders in the common 32. It's full of all sorts of stuff. It's got details of various ship classes. It tells you about ship rebuilds. When they're rebuilt, it has all the abbreviations used, explained. And basically, you can pick a ship name and you can look it up and you will have all the details. It's a really, really cool book. Hello, King George V. Josh Shade, the older one just made me laugh. I'm glad it. Melly 640, you did tell us you don't know why it defends BT. Yes, as I said, I don't know why. That was the sort of going. It's so obsessed with the weakness in the communication system, it forgets the problem that with any system is garbage in, garbage out. So, yes, I know it's not as viable as other systems might be, but I have a feeling that any other system which had been subject to a similar level of garbage would have been similarly problematic. Kingston, any ETA on when the list of the books will be in the description? Sometime this evening after the live's over. After I've walked the dog and gone to bed. So probably, if the live ends at 9 o'clock, I'll probably get it fully uploaded by about 1 a.m. So probably about 4 hours afterwards. Come on, let's play Tropico. Crazy luck. Just don't call us late for dinner, Peter Ambrick. No. Oh, it's a good book. Anyway, what I'm going to say this one is, pick a name. Pick a name from naval history, from a name of a ship, and we'll see what version it's going to. We'll do that as a bit of excitement on that one. Warspite. Surprise. We'll do Warspite and then we'll do Surprise. Let's see. Warspite. So, Warspite. The first Warspite, also originally spelt Warspight, galleon, 684 berth tons, berthen, 2 60-pounder guns, 2 34-pounder guns, 13 18-pounder guns, 10 9-pounder guns, 2 6-pounders. Built 1596, harbour service in 1635, sold 1649. Then there is the Warspite, the third rate, 70 gun, 898 berthen units. Built by Johnson and Castle at Blackwell in 8th of June 1666. Rebuilt at Rotherhithe in 1702 as 952 berthen tons in Edinburgh. Warspite, another Warspite was a third rate 74. Next one. And she was built in Deptford on the 8th of April 1758. She was launched. Then there's Warspite third rate. She's built at Chatham. Launched 16th of November 1807. Reduced to 50 guns in 1840. Lent to the Marine Society in March 1862 as test ship. The next Warspite was originally HMS Waterloo, launched in 1833. The following Warspite after that was originally HMS Hermione, launched in 1893. Then there was Warspite, the armoured cruiser of 8,400 tons, launched in 1884. And then there's Warspite, the battleship, and Warspite, the nuclear submarine, and finally Warspite, the dreadnought class nuclear submarine, to be of 17,200 tons and carry Trident missiles. Right then. So, next one was Surprise. Now, the original Surprise was spelled Surprize, no S-E, and then the rest are Surprise, as in Surprize. And then it goes back to SE. Yeah, it's fun. There's been 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 13 ships named Surprise or variations of it. Starts off with a 6 rate, 24 gun, and it does get up to a 5th rate of 38 guns at one point. A nice frigate. Dispatch vessel, and there's an M-class destroyer launched in 1916 and sunk in 1917. Since then, there hasn't been a surprise. That's kind of sad, isn't it? Right then, Enterprise. It's a good book. As I said, I already had the previous version, so there was part of me wasn't really that worried about getting this one. But there was also part of me going, they could muck up a winning formula. It is quite easy to. You try and turn it into something extra. And it's sort of a case of it doesn't need to be. It's perfectly good as it is. Enterprise. There has been a 6th rate. The French vessel Enterprise, captured in 1705 in the Mediterranean. And since then, there has been 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14 ships named Enterprise. Current one, of course, is a survey ship. Previous one was a survey ship. Previous to that was a light cruiser of 7,600 tons. Sold in 1946, but launched in 1919. E-class. Right then. And Exeter? Yes, we'll do Exeter and Bellerophon, and that one we'll call it on the list of these ones, because otherwise we spend the entire night going through them. Quite happily, but you know. There is a limit to which you should stop. Excellent. Exeter. Exeter was a 3rd rate of 70 guns, built in 1680. Then she was a 4th rate of 60 guns, launched in 1697. Then a 3rd rate with 64 guns in 1763. Then nothing else was built until there was a cruiser of 8,390 tons. Sunk in action with a Japanese squadron off Java. Then there's a frigate, ordered in 1956 but cancelled in 1957, which was to be armed with 2 4.5-inch guns and 2 40mm. Then there was a destroyer, Type 42, Batch 2. Exeter. And Bellerophon. Maybe there's an issue of Bellerophon. Well, that's Beelzebub. Bellerophon. Let's see, we've got a 3rd rate in 74 gun. A 3rd rate 74 gun launched in 1786. We have a battleship launched in 1865. We have a battleship of 18,600 tons, launched in 1907. And we have a couple more ships. So, it's a good book if you're interested in this. As I said, I would like the US version, I would like the IJN version, but I'm very happy the British version is alive and kicking and has come out in a new variant. So let's answer some questions quickly. So, 1666. So, was she being laid down whilst London was burning? Or am I often time? Probably. London's often burning. British order. Risk for the Navy. Instead of continents and territories, fight for the oceans and seas. Go along the trade routes and stuff. Weird idea day for me, yes? Little sleep last night. Sounds actually quite fun. HMS Blackburn. I should probably look up HMS Blackburn. HMS Gurkha, there's a history of it in my book as its name. Different services. Because I was trying to point out that the Royal Navy wasn't suddenly being rather insensitive or poaching anything. There were names which had actually been in service for quite a while as far as the RM is concerned. HMS Blackburn. HMS Blackburn, formerly HMS Burnham in 1918, later Hunt class. And then HMS Blackburn, an aircraft transport of 990 tons. Then a Royal Naval Volunteer Reserve drill ship in 1915. And yeah, that's HMS Blackburn. Reginald, 2 was a merchant. 2 was a merchant supply ship, if I'm right. There was a Blackburn, as I said. There were 2. One was an aircraft supply ship. One was a converted Hunt class. Well, renamed Hunt class. So, does that mean the Lords of the Admiralty don't like surprises? They got a few number of them. Hi, Concise HMS. New IK 472. The idea of an RM vessel by the name of Warspite having Trident missiles is a bit worrying, given how in the thick of it HMS Warspites like to be. I'd more be worried about it for the fact of view that HMS Warspites have a habit of being, how do I put this, independently minded. If there's ever a ship you don't want to be independently minded, it's a Warspite. Also, in the nicest way, we have a habit of trying to save Dreadnought for things which are revolutionary ships. And I do not see an SSBN as ever being revolutionary ship. Not now, unless there's suddenly one which is, frankly, can shoot down ballistic missiles as well as launch them. It's a nice floor, this floor. AC is chained to the radiator. No, I really am not. It'd be fun if I was. But no. King's Rook. Is there a question? Is there a version of that book that doesn't cover the RCN ships? It actually has quite a lot of the RCN and the Royal Australian Navy ships in it as well, and some of the Royal Indian Navy vessels as well in there. Some. Decision. Good evening. Love the new decor. Well, it's going to get better. I'll say it's going to get better. There's going to be another bookshelf. Another shelf built in there, and then there's going to be a railway. It's sort of working things out as I go. Because I'm building it. Then people were slightly surprised I started from working from the shelves from top down, but it seemed more sensible to me to start from the shelves from top down because I would need ladders and things to get into the top shelves. And if I built the bottom shelves and then I had to bring my ladders in, that would give me a lot to lean over and possibly bash into and damage. So if I did the top shelves first and worked my way down, then things would be safe. And at least with the IJN book, you only have to buy one. If it gets updated, Japan has changed. Well, you'd probably call it Ships of Japan, or the IJN and Japanese Maritime Self-Defense Force, or as many of us just call it nowadays, the Japanese Navy. You see, if I lived nearby, I'd volunteer to help move his bookshelves. Unfortunately, I don't. Don't worry. I'm building bookshelves, not moving them. More mostly. Because I need more bookshelves, not less. Moving them won't help me. That's the problem. I need my bookshelves. They're all full. Even once I get all the bookshelves in here built, and yeah, desk is going to go there. At some point, I'm going to figure out where I'm going to stick the camera. I have a feeling I might find a wall mounting for it, rather than having it sort of on a separate thing, so it's just sort of positioned. I don't think that with the radiator comment, it was more to do with the hostage look. I know, at the moment it is. But you see, eventually, what I want, and I can't see any way I could do it right now that way, what I'll be sort of doing will be, you know, could I do it that way? Give me a second. Hello. No, that puts me too far away. Yeah, can I do that? So, that'll be sort of what I'll probably be doing in the future, sort of roughly with bookshelves, and sort of position it round at sort of that level so it can see the bookshelf behind me and I can talk away. I think that'll be quite nice. It'll be something new and different. Hello. Let's see if this works better. Now, if I do that there. Or does that create strobing still? Doesn't appear to be strobing, so I can turn that one off. What the? Angled a bit the wrong way. Ooh. Although now it's got a weird red thing in it. I'm not sure where that comes from. For some reason there has a lightsaber appeared up there. Yeah, we'll move it back down. And that's slightly sort of more natural. Hello. Oh, yes, as you can see, I have got a very nice ladder next to me. Alright then. Question. Is that? Carl, got a short circle of death. Maybe Dr. Clark should install the clock on the wall that shows. I'm not sure why there's a circle of death, because I'm still plugged in, unless I manage to knock the cable somewhere. I am considering getting new cables. They're not working quite as well as they're supposed to. I got cables for one thing, and I'm trying to use them for another, and it's not working out as good as it should be. Well, the shed. A wall mount that you can mess with the angle might be the ticket. Yes, that is the plan. And will it be dry enough for long-term storage? Yes, it should be. It's going to definitely be dry enough. Keeping the temperature fine is going to be interesting, but I have a plan. It's going to be... Yeah, it'll work. It'll work. Will it be dry enough for long-term storage? Yes. Well, it was a reasonable question, and honestly, as the builders left it, probably wouldn't have been. As it is now, yes, it will be. And as it will be after me and my excellent builder who is helping me out for iron brew and pizza, how finished it certainly will be. Keeping temperature at a reasonable level. Actually, books prefer it to be cold and dry. So that's the more problem. It's got enough insulation. You don't want it to go down to freezing or frozen in there, because that can cause trouble. But then I have it structured so that the heater comes on. But some of these books, they have been living in boxes in the garage, because that was the only space for them. So this here is definitely better than that. They were in plastic boxes protecting them in the garage, though. They don't think... And the roof, the boards used for the shelves are roofing boards, which have been sealed nicely, and their shelves themselves are going to be painted, so they're going to be waterproof. Right. Announcement. Read possible dampness. Try a chemical dehumidifier first. If it does not collect much water, good. If it does, Concise, get some proper ensigns in there. Technically inappropriate, but that's sort of confusing. Well, we've got plans. This wall, this bit, the subsequent hung box is definitely going to be painted iron brew orange. I'm tempted to leave this wall as it is, large chunks of it, and just put the iron brew bottles up it, and they're going to be lit. It's going to be a lot of fun going on here. Driving some cork and tar. That is what's happening outside, I think, on the outer wall. Because, again, the whole system is built on an outer and an inner wall. There's the outer word. Has Drac borrowed the key yet? He hasn't need to borrow the key. He's welcome any time. So, next two books, and there's a reason I wanted more light and I wanted the things up wider and bigger while I showed you these two books, is because I want to put them up together. They're Warship Builders and they're Liberty Factory. Now, Warship Builders is what I would call an academic work in many, many respects. But it is so well written that whilst it is probably a very niche topic, it's definitely something which the general history interested person, if they have a slight inclination interest towards the construction of warships itself, rather than just the warships that are going and fighting, will find it interesting. It's by Thomas Heinrich, and it's the industrial history of US Navy shipbuilding 1922 to 1945. And you really do start to realise that the roots of the US successes in World War II are in the 1920s. That the ship construction, the work, and all these things, when it shows you plans of yards like this, and you just go, okay, well, that's cool. You also realise quite how intricate the railway network of these yards was. And it's got such things in lines in it as modular construction failed spectacularly. Rudolf Bohm, a veteran shipbuilder and owner of Bohm and Voss, pointed out that many blueprints developed by Gluckhauf had to be changed because they were either not practical or entirely useless. For example, the steering mechanism was a total failure, and the first boats completed by the ship assembly yards could not be steered. Standardization proved impossible because the Navy asked for more than 100 major design changes, with the result that each boat is different because measurement deviations were so great that in the parts to be connected, that each pipe had to be fitted separately. Bohm complained. The real mass production of Type 21 was never started, and the devices for it were never even designed. Subcontractors suffered chronic shortages of alloy steel, nuts and bolts. Phase 1 steel fabricators lacked the precision tools and shop floor skills required to work within the 2mm tolerances that were necessary to ensure proper fit during final assembly. Some sections were 32mm off. Welds showed deficiencies which endangered the safety of the boat, and many deficient welds had to be eliminated and done over. Procurement planning for subcontracted items like steering mechanisms, snorkel lifting devices, valves, and pipes started far too late, making it impossible for Phase 2 producers to deliver complete modules to final assembly yards, which had to construct many items in-house. Blom also complained that Phase 2 yards frequently failed to pressure test pipes, fittings, and valves, and often delivered incomplete modules to final assembly yards. Merker responded to such criticism by accusing Blom, a Nazi stalwart, of defeatism and sabotage of the German war effort. In the end, the three final assembly yards spent an average of 120 days fixing production mistakes, 3 weeks longer than it took them to assemble the boats. Perhaps surprisingly, given Germany's industry's reputation for precision engineering, its steel fabricators proved far less capable of producing satisfactory sections than their counterparts in the United States and Britain, where shipbuilders rarely complained about faulty pre-assemblies for destroyer escorts, frigates, and landing craft. Contradicting another bit of conventional wisdom, procurement and production planning in Germany is far less organized than in the United States, and there was chaos throughout the program. In the end, only 2 of the 100 Type 21 submarines completed by 1945 were deployed to the Atlantic, and neither scored a hit. The most fortunate side effect of this colossal waste of resources was that it prevented Germany from resuming the Battle of the Atlantic late in the war. I love this book. It was published by the Naval Institute Press in 2020, and it is a really, really good book. We like this one. Stephen, it looks like a potential man cave, but we're naval historians here, so perhaps we can instead call it the transmitting station, armoured as per the county class, which is the same, not at all. Potentially, I have an idea for what it's going to be called, but I am going to be tempted to open suggestions on the Patreon as something for patrons to suggest. Names for the office. And Juno 101. Puppy decided to play hide the towel while I was in the shower. Well, as GC Fusion says, puppy gonna puppy, but also, hey, you know, dogs love a towel or socks. Monday 1640. When did they stop supplying iron brew in glass bottles? Well, apart from limited edition, which occasionally come when they do them come in glass bottles, they stopped doing glass bottled iron brew about 15, 20 years ago as a regular thing. Crazy logo. What's the dimensions of the office? Well, as specified, it was supposed to be externally 2.5 by 2.7 meters, and internally 2.42 by 2.62 meters, because it's supposed to be 8 centimeters wall. It actually varies between 2.28 and 2.29 centimeters wide that way, and this way, which is supposed to be the 2.62, is about 2.54, 55, depending on which corner I'm in. And if you're slightly worried by that, yes, you're not the only one. But it's structurally sound, it's fine. Not even our builders can manage to muck up this. Here is the thing. Here is the building system. And I can actually show you corner pieces, and the corner pieces just literally click into each other. It's Lego in wood. It's one of those things where I wish what I'd done was shut everything down for a week, take a week off work, and built it myself. But everyone insisted, no, you have to get builders, they'll do the proper job, you don't have the time, you can't do it as well as they can, they're professionals, they know what they're doing, and I'm sort of going, the concrete base we're gonna have to fix, let alone the walls. Hello, Frank Cusack. How expensive is it? This book? Warship Builders, let's see. It hasn't got a price listed on it. Continuing on back to that. Let's see if there's a price list. There is no price listed on this book. I think it cost me about £20, but I did have Amazon vouchers loaded up on my Amazon system, so I'm not quite sure. But it's a really, really cool book. Stanflex, Naval Historical Intelligence Module. Anfin, it sounds a bit like USS Ford's elevators. Potentially. The plotting room. The slipway. Room 41. Those are all good ideas. Name the office the wardroom. Centimeters wide? Yes. Yes. 228 centimeters. I know that exactly because, as I said, well, actually, no, it's not 228. As I was saying earlier, at this point, it's 228.5. At this point, it's 227.9. And at this point, it's 228 again. Not sure what happens. The walls just vary by 0.6 of a centimeter in that distance. I'm going to have... if I was... the temptation to take it all down and start again is very strong. But it's good. I do like it. And honestly, it's a lovely system. The Lugard system is lovely. I really do like the Lugard system. You just need to actually pay. You don't even need that intelligence to build it. You just need to be paying attention. Lego and wood, those are called Lincoln logs. Yes, they are, aren't they? Although I never really played with that on Lincoln logs. I played with a lot of Lego. Just think, it's log, it's big, it's heavy, it's wood. It's log. Hello, Yickers. Late arrival. Hello. Office setup nice. Yes, it's starting to go there. So, another layer of shelves has to go in. Base has to be done. We have got... we've now got a guttering system installed. We've got to finish doing and putting all the sills over the doors and windows. So we've got a bit more work to do. And once I've built next levels of shelves, once they're in, and I've got the wood out, then I'll put my desk in properly. And once I've got my desk in, then yeah. I might actually start teaching from here already, I have to admit. It is tempting. Because then I could bring my desk down tomorrow and just set that up in here. And it'd be quite useful to have a desk in here. John Shank, facepalm, how can they muck up something so simple? I have no idea. I honestly do not know. As said, slightly more complicated pieces. Well, I suppose you could say that some bits are more complicated because. This is also, here's the other thing I have to admit they've done, which really, really annoyed me. Instead of going, you know what, we're cutting off some small bits. So what we'll do is we'll all concentrate on one piece. No, they cut off the small bits off lots of long pieces, and so they leave lots of long pieces like this, which are sort of partially cut, and you're going, that's annoying, because I could use a full-length one to go across the whole room instead of doing what I'm doing. And then, you really need to tap, tap. Magic! This is not the world's most complicated system to build with, but apparently they couldn't do that. What can I say? What can I say? But no. The reason I combined these two books together is because, as I said, this one is supposedly the academic book, but it's really easy to read, and it's really, really interesting if you're interested in it. This book is really, really cool if you're interested in the story of Liberty and victory ships. But seriously, the combination of modular construction is interesting, and they lost to the people who figured that out. Yeah. Basically, the Type 21 was supposed to be great, but... So that's awesome. How about the log room? Tempting. A crazy logger. So about 7.5 feet by 8.5 feet, approximately. Yeah, roughly. Is there a substitute for an industrial history of US Navy shipbuilding 1922-1945 on that book? Asking is when you were reading about they were giving an example of Type 21 because if I can explain, once I give you the chapter headlines, I'll sort of explain it. Chapters are highly specialized art, the decline and recovery of interwar shipbuilding, an unending effort to satisfy the needs for high speed and great strength, warship design, welding, marine engineering between the wars, superior to the combined strength of our enemies, the naval strategy, shipbuilding programs, and Navy Department reforms 1940 to 1945. Expect a lot of the people who, frankly, wind up DRAC to be in there. We can build anything, wartime Navy yards, and the government pays everything in there, private builders and contractor-operated yards. Conclusion. Warship building, batch production, US industrial economy. So, let's see. We can talk about US ones in here. There's lots about US ones in here. But I was looking for a discrete section to read, and Type 21 was a discrete section. This is a picture of Iowa receiving a 16-inch gun. A map or a chart of the US Navy versus Japanese shipyard workers. So guess which one's the US and guess which one's Japan. In summer 1941, the IUMSWA sought a closed-shop system at Federal Ship, where it maintained one of its strongest locals. Union leaders expected management to meet the demand because it wanted to avoid strikes and conflicts at a time when the Navy urged accelerated completion of combatants. In July, the National Defence Mediation Board issued a ruling that marked a major step towards a closed shop, mandating that federal ship fire members of Local 16 who do not pay their union dues. When Shipyard President Elaine Corndorff, who was also Vice President of the US Steel Corporation, Federal Ship's parent company, refused to implement the decision, Local 16 called a strike in August. After rejecting the Navy's recommendation to abide by the Mediation Board's ruling, Corndorff upped the ante by offering to sell or lease the yard to the government. An undeterred Roosevelt shortly signed an executive order authorizing the Navy to seize the plant, which resulted in Corndorff's replacement of Baden. Though most other managers replaced it remain in place. After negotiating into the strike, Baden proved an active executive, who frequently consulted with superintendents, foremen, and shop floor workers. Local 16 applauded his decision to terminate Corndorff's attempts to form a company union, but was frustrated with his refusal to implement the Mediation Board ruling. When productivity improvements received publicity, left-wing newspapers were gleeful because they regarded as proof that government management was superior to private management, and the right-wing newspapers were constantly seeking to prove that private property and private ownership was being damaged. Byrne later called the Navy returned federal ship to private management in January 1942, followed by Corndorff's grudging acceptance of the National War Labour Board directive to introduce a quasi-closed shop system, resulting in a major victory for IUMSWA. Plant seizures were a mixed blessing for organised labour. In addition to federal ship, the government in 1941 took temporary control of an Air Associates aircraft plant in Bendix, New Jersey, and a North American aviation facility, a factory in Inglewood, California, after management had refused to settle strikes. Legalized by the Selective Service Act of 1940, which empowered the President to take possession of any business that failed to comply with Army and Navy orders, these seizures signaled to business that the government would not tolerate employee intransigence in labour disputes. Expectations that plant requisitions would produce labour-friendly management were usually not met, however, and opinion polls indicated the majority of the American public disapproved of strikes that had triggered federal seizures in the first place, prompting some union organisers to reject government takeovers as a viable tactic. Shipyard unions occasionally scored successes in campaigns for better housing and shipbuilding hubs. In Camden, New Jersey, the U.S. Housing Corporation invested $11 million in the construction of a 225-acre development called Yorkshire for the New York shipyard workers in World War I. But the city suffered extreme overcrowding in World War II. An old city with comparatively little new housing, but with old homes in varying states of despair, Camden was suddenly flooded with defense workers who found jobs in the shipyards. Radio Corporation America, Campbell Soup, and other industrial plants, a union official reported. Many workers were compelled to travel from 20 to 60 miles daily. A campaign led by Local 1 of the IUMSWA resulted in the construction of 600 housing units for union members. Newport News was less fortunate, according to shipyard worker, the IUMSWA newspaper. Shipyard workers are living 4 to 6 in a room, crowded in housing and buildings without adequate sanitary facilities and packed in trailer camps in every outlying section of the city. It reported in 1941. Some few apartments are advertised in local papers at exorbitant rentals, and they all state no children. The US housing projects are inadequate, and many workers are today living under the most miserable conditions. It's a good book. HMS Edinburgh. Tempting. Reginald, saw a green Godnos on a subset. Could you convert the back of one into an office? Yes, you could. Seriously, a green goddess has far more space than it looks like. On all the video on television, they always look quite small. When you get next to them, you go, oh. So, Liberty Ship, the untold story of Henry Kaiser's Oregon shipyards. And it's just gorgeous. It starts off with a beautiful map. And it just gets better from there. The one thing I would say is this came in the post from Pen and Sword. And unfortunately, I have to admit the cover came ripped. But that it's not Pen and Sword. That's the deliveries. That's one of the trouble when you're getting all delivery stuff delivered. They get so many parts in their vans. It's not the drivers. It's no one's fault. It's just the scenario. But it is gorgeous photography. I mean, Yeah, and it's just fantastic. If I could get this picture blown up to about A2 size and stick it up on my wall, I would. It is gorgeous. And it shows a row of Victory ships, including Victory herself, being completed. And it's just gorgeous. Now, these two books together are, if you, as close as you can get to having as a two-book, that's what I call, okay, so, in academic terms, we often strip things into level of understandings. Have you done a thesis or a research project or something? Probably quite in depth. Do you have a teaching level, in which case you're going to know it well enough and know quite a few books and have taught it, so you have the experience? Do you have what we call a conversational or conference level understanding of the topic, in which case you've read a few books and a few of the journal articles? Or do you have a foundation level? Now, foundation level can be 2 or 5 books I've read. These books together would give you a very strong foundational understanding of shipbuilding in the United States prior to and during World War II. This would also give you pictures which would be keeping you amused for days. And it's one of those books which doesn't come with its price printed on it anywhere that I can see. Oh yes, I've got it now. Well, I'm going to say from some of the things, they also advertise some of the other books they do in this series. They've got Liberty's Providence, The Evolution of Liberty's Ship, which is apparently £25. A Shipyard at War, Unseen Photographs of John Brown's Clydebank, 1914 to 1918, which is £30. Total Undersea War, Every She Rolled the Snorkel, £35. And Spoils of War, The Fate of Enemy Fleets After 2 World Wars, also £35, all mentioned in here. But no, this book itself is £35 and is written by Peter Marsh, and it is published in 2021. And it is gorgeous. It is absolutely beautiful. It has got some lovely writing in it, and I'll be reading out a bit in a second. It's got stuff, and it's a very honest book in terms of assessment of people. It's when you see a picture like this, and just a row of Liberty ships under construction. There's like 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 11 Liberty ships under construction alongside each other. You just realise it is a factoryizing production of ships. Steph Thompson, what's a Green Goddess? It's a name for an army fire truck. Basically, the army's reserve fire trucks, which used to be used to fill in for firemen when they went on strike. 1940. 20 to 60 miles late. How? You literally couldn't get me tyres for your vehicle if you had. Couldn't get tyres for the vehicle. So how could you travel that distance daily? Public transport was usually the way. Just was concerned how long a Google search would take. Green Goddess fire truck. Trust me, Stafford, it won't take long for it to show up. Let's find a nice section, a nice bit to read. It gives you a good example of it. Ooh. Tankers were vital to the Allied war effort, and the standard T2 was the tanker equivalent of the Liberty. In less than 4 years, from February 1942 to November 1945, 4 shipyards delivered 533 of these 16,600-ton tankers, construction being divided as follows. Sun Shipbuilding, South Philadelphia on Delaware River, 206 ships. Kaiser Swan in Island, Portland, 147 ships. Adasco, that's Alabama Dry Dock and Shipbuilding Company, on the Gulf Coast, 102 ships. Marine ship, built by W.A. Bechtel Company at the north end of San Francisco Bay in Sausalito, 78 ships. So we can be honest, Sun Shipbuilding is taking on quite a lot of that stuff. And Kaiser Swan Island is the next biggest. And it's just colossal. Kaiser Swan Island was the third and last of the Kaiser Van Port emergency shipyards, located 2 miles upstream for Oregon ship, and close enough to the city centre to make it the most visible and accessible of the Kaiser yards. It only built one type of ship and became very proficient at it. The proof was that it flew the M flag for 2.5 years, and the coveted tanker champion flag flew over the Swan Island yard for 12 out of 15 months to the end of 1944. Swan Island had a very curious history in the early 1900s, before becoming the site of the tanker champions of the world. Into the early 1920s, Swan Island was just a wetland in the middle of the Willamette River, a mile downstream of central Portland and 8 miles above the confluence with the Columbia. Curiously, the deep water channel to the city docks had meandered to the east side of the island, sometimes in the past, although the direct route was on the west side. When the Port of Portland began planning a major program of dredging and wharf building after World War I, they convinced the US Army Corps of Engineers to reroute the shipping channel back to the west side of the island, and dump the dredge spoils on the east side to block the old channel and connect the island to the east bank. Although it was no longer an island, the name remained as a reminder of its history. In 1927, the shipping channel was straighter and deeper. Exports of wheat and lumber had increased, and a road was being laid across the land bridge to the peninsula that had tripled in size to 900 acres. It's now about a mile long by a third of a mile wide, big enough to become the site of Portland's first airport. On the 14th September, the airstrip was completed in time for a celebratory opening event. The first pilot to land was none other than Charles Lindbergh, hailed as the most famous person in the world at the time, flying his equally famous plane, the Spirit of St. Louis. His short stay in Portland allowed for time to visit the famous old battleship USS Oregon, then employed as a museum ship. Lindbergh arrived from Seattle and continued south to San Francisco, stopping in all 48 states and visiting 92 cities to promote air travel. By 1935, air travel had boomed, and the runway was considered too short to land the latest and most popular airliner, the DC-3. So the city and port chose a site on the south shore of the Columbia River for its new airport. Construction of the airport during 1930 to 1940 steadily employed over 1,000 men and was recognised as Portland's most important public works during the new era. When the Maritime Commission began planning for a third wave of emergency shipyards in 1941, it saw Swan Island as the ideal spot for a third Kaiser yard. The compact site with water on 3 sides was well suited to shipbuilding and fitting out. There was enough room for the prefabrication assembly work to proceed through the yard towards the ways, while the new launch ships could be moored in the Swan Island Basin on the east side for fitting out just a few yards from the marine shops. The completed ships could dock on the west side for commissioning and head straight out into the river for sea trials, and still more close to the workshops on their return. This was not the case at OSC, where only 4 or 5 ships could be moored. The contract to convert the Swan Island Municipal Airport was signed on 4th March 1942, only 2 months after work had begun and started at Kaiser Vancouver. By the 16th of March, the first ground had been broken, and workmen began to drive some wooden 2,000 piles for the outfitting dock. It was planned with 10 550-foot shipways that would have completely filled the north end of the island, but this was cut back to 8, which turned out to be more than enough for the Kaisers to set more records. The yard centered on the huge plate and assembly buildings with a 593-ton electrically driven press peak. break, and a 96-inch gauge shear, the largest in the West. Of the 11 bays, 3 were equipped with 25-ton bridge cranes devoted to erecting Isherwood-type corrugated bulkheads weighing 30 tons. The rest of the bays had different cranes for lifting various bulkhead and deck sections, necessary for the largest ships ever built in the Portland area. Shell plates were prefabricated in complete 36 by 40 foot sections. Hull assembly began by laying the keel and adjacent bottom plating. Starting midships, the first of 21 bulkheads were set in position, and the erection is carried out in both directions towards the end. 2 longitudinal bulkheads divide the tank spaces into 3 compartments. Then longitudinal stringers that support the shell and decks were set in place. The ends of the vessel were finished last, and often the tank spaces were completed and tested, capable of floating the vessel before the ends were fully plated. The policy of continuous improvement quickly led to the total prefabrication of the poop deck assembly, which could be completed in 5 days, welded in the inverted position. Weighing in at 56 tons, it could be lifted by 2 whirly cranes. The poop deck crew quarters were well under construction when the vessel was launched. It's a gorgeous book. These are gorgeous books. You have a Naval Institute Press book and a Seaforth book, and they are both lovely. And that concludes the new book portion of today. Let's see what the questions are. Merlin 1640. Public transport 40-60-mile trips daily in the US in the 40s? Not fun. Trains were around, yes, but also they often laid on buses for works, etc. If you're talking about Kaiser shipyard or some of the shipyards, they laid on specific buses to go and collect people. You missed your bus, you weren't getting to work that day, you were going to get you could lose your job. That was the fun thing. Southampton, checks on the computer. Yep, I don't know how I forgot those beasts. They're up for surplus now. Wow, would make a good base for an RV conversion. Oh, yes, they would. Ground clearance up the wazoo on those things. Reginald, hello from the USS Saratoga, fighting the 3rd day of the Battle of Valentine's Day, President's Day weekend. Enjoy. I'm going to have to spend so long sweeping this floor before I move anything in here, really, aren't I? I was thinking about moving my desk in here sooner, but I think I'll leave it for a bit and, I should leave my chair in here, but I'm going to have to do a lot of sweeping. Right now, so what I'm going to do is after this, it's now the transactions of the Institute of Naval Architects, and it's a case of it's basically, let's see, I wonder if that will work. That does make it sound slightly better. Brand Paulus, how would the Isaiah Fuse and Nagata classes have fared against the Queen Elizabeth orders built? Both 1v1 and 6 versus 5. Well, Brent, let's see. Well, for the Nagato class, in a 1v1 fight, they outpaced the Queen Elizabeth by a couple of knots, probably. And I say that probably because, well, they have a habit of, how do I put this, accelerating quite quickly, the British ones. They have 16-inch guns, and they have a very nice armour belt. As built. Well, let's go for this. When is sprint pause? That's a good question. For Nagatos, honestly, if it's a 1v1 scenario, they probably have the edge versus the Queen Elizabeth class. For the Aize and Fuso, well, I would say Aize and Fuso, they have an advantage over, and they could probably take them. That would certainly be my suggestion, my feelings. The Nagato class could probably take the Queen Elizabeth. The question is, if you got 5 versus 6, would the Queen Elizabeth be able to take out the Fusos and the Aizes quick enough that they could bring superior numbers to bear on the Nagatos, which can negate Nagato's strength? Odds are, I think, if it's 1v1 of any of the other classes, then probably the Brits win. If it's Nagato 1v1 on the Queen Elizabeth, if it's 6 versus 5, it depends how the fight takes place. If it's a night fight and the British fire first and manage to get close range, this is after Jutland, then I would put the money on the Queen Elizabeth because they would take out the 4 weaker ships quite quickly and could probably then hound the 2 Nagatos, or they'd run away. That would be their only sort of options. If it's a day fight, then I don't see how the British ships damage the Japanese fast enough that the Nagatos don't manage their superior numbers and the capabilities of Nagatos don't manage to win. So yeah, if it's all 6 and it's daylight versus 5, then it's Nagato. It's on the Japanese. But the point is, the British would probably turn up and go, "Yes, have you met the sacrificial lambs? They're called the R-Class. Shoot at them while the Queen Elizabeths kill you." The Queen Elizabeths turn up and go, "We have armor. They're called the R-Class. They will sail here." Yes, that will take out that will weaken your numbers. Because it'll be 6 versus 10. Yay! We can shut it up, dude. Yeah. Okay, so I hope that answers your question, Brett. And listen, actually, that sort of tells me where we should start with this the transaction they went through, because if I remember correctly, this particularly battered one, because my dad stored it very, very badly, because typical engineer, he was going, "I care about access to information, not about the storage of the books," and I go, "You tort." But luckily the contents are pretty darn good and fine, so, I won't hunt him down in his grave. Father. But it's a good book. Let's see. Contents. Let's see. Is this the right version, or is this the wrong version? I'll check. It's 1918. Well, I've got 1911. There you are. Stay. I think it's a nice solid shelf. If you think about that, that's a 2+ meter span, nearly 2.25 meter span, and it's barely bowing at all under the full weight of those books. Remember, thank you. I'm glad it helped. Chris Ozzy, back in school summer, I interned at BP in Sunbury. They had a company bus to and from the railway station in the morning and evening. That was not even pre-World War II. To be fair, there is Atkins engineering firm in my local area, which has a habit of buses going backwards and forwards from Epsom. Ah, yes, 1919. I picked out the wrong one. I should have picked out the 1919 one. Ships of the British Navy on August 4th, 1914. Sir Madison interest in connection with their production. Yeah. Let's deal with this one. (1919) Transactions of the Institute of Naval Architects. The first, and what I love is this has tables of Japanese warships in commission in 1914, US Navy warships in commission in 1914, and working pressures in various boilers. So, if you really want to start modeling your ships accurately on computer systems, can I get this right switcher up? This has all the data you need to make sure your engines are working properly. Thus, when the following obtains the hydraulic test of a boiler in the working pressure for which is 200 pounds per square inch. For the British Admiralty, 290 pounds. For the French authorities, 285 pounds. For the German authorities, 275 pounds. For the Italian authorities, 271 pounds. For the Board of Trade Maritime Department, 1918, 400 pounds. For the Board of Trade Land, 300 pounds. All sorts of fun things going on in here. Anyway, warships, Japanese warships in commission, building in August 1914. There's a full list of them, of their cruisers. Russian warships, French warships, British warships in commission and building in 1914. American warships in commission and building in 1914. It's got all the data. Wouldn't it realistically come down to who landed a lucky shot first? Yeah, but the odds of getting a lucky shot are more likely if you've got 6 ships and 2 of them have got 16-inch guns and can outpace you. Although they are slow, they are kept down to the speed of the slowest unit, so they're going to be more difficult to control. But the odds are in daylight, as I said, 6 versus 5 was the odds. Lovely. This is spoken in April the 9th, 1919. So, this is how they start. Now that the war is presumably over, and the world's affairs have reached a stage which could not have been reached but for the British Navy, it is desirable that we should have on record in our transactions a statement of the constituent elements of that Navy as they existed in commission and in the course of preparation at the outbreak of war in 1914, and of those of the other navies concerned. This is by Sir Philip Watts, KCB, FRS, LLD, DSC, Honorary Vice President. Rear Admiral, the Most Honourable the Marquis of Bristol, past president, is in the chair. I became Director of Naval Construction in 1902 and held the post for 10.5 years till August 1912. I continued an advisor to the board from that date until and after the declaration of war with Germany. It has been pointed out to me by members of our council that I should prepare this paper, and at that suggestion of Admiral Sir Henry Jackson, I applied to the Admiralty and obtained permission to put forward the particulars which accompany this remarks. Ever since the Institute was founded in 1860, it has been discussed matters having to do with the material of the Navy. Questions have, on various occasions, been referred to it informally by the Board of Admiralty, and its discussions have had weight with the Board in arriving at its decisions. All the ships which formed our Navy at the outbreak of war were, I think, designed and built by present and past members of our institution. Our members, both past and present, though they may not have been personally engaged in designing or building our fleets, have nevertheless done much to bring those fleets into being. Their papers and discussions before the institution, and in some cases their parliamentary and other action, have been of great service. A large number of eminent naval officers have contributed to the same great object. In some cases, they have contributed to facts, and in some have adopted results arrived at after discussion. I submit that collectively, the Empire, and indeed the world generally, owes much to our institution for its services in connection with the production of the vessels which have played so important a part in securing the world's freedom. This was not a man prone to lacking hyperbole, or hyperbole, depending on your perspective. Vision. Did the RN consider building Nelson class as battle cruisers, sacrificing a turret for speed and perhaps aviation facilities? Well, armored 16-gun battle cruisers would have been very useful in Model 2. Honestly, they didn't really, but I still think myself there would have been a very big difference in the world if you set the tonnage of aircraft carriers at 30,000 tons and you set the tonnage limit of battleships at about 40,000 tons. I think you could have had some if you've been building... Hello, little one. Up you go.
Can I borrow your stone side?
Can you borrow my... This?
Yes. And the step ladders.
Yes, you can borrow the step ladders. Sorry. My sister is currently painting her office, and so she's nicking my step ladders. But in return, she is leaving something to say hello to you all.
Mum took one.
Mum wants him back, and she can't have him back. He's coming to stay with me. He's going to come and look after your terminal now, aren't you?
No. What happens? How much food have you got?
A fair amount. Mostly pork scratchings. That'll do, though, for you, won't it?
Anything.
That will do for you. Hello, everyone. How are we all doing? There you go. Hello. Ooh. Hello. Am I tasty? Right then. So, operational steam pressure. Yes, that's what I was reading out. What was the big old book on the shelf? Well, the big old book on the shelf, there are a couple, but this one is the 1919 Institution of Naval Architects Transactions. Yes, this is Ebony. He has gotten big. He's teething at the moment, which is why he's currently chewing me. Yes, the Taffra is here. Okay, so getting more into the fact of building the Nelsons as 16. Look, if you'd had 40,000 tons, you could have built a very decent battle cruiser. But with 9 16-inch guns. But the moment you're dealing with the tonnage that they're dealing with, you have to make a choice, speed or armour. And the British are always going to pick armour because the odds are you can't outrun newer ships. But if you have enough armour, you can outfight them, can't you? Yes, you can. This is why I wear a coat. It's my armour, and I can outfight them because I will. Mm-hmm. Good boy. Go. Bottom book by the glass. Ah, the bottom book by the glass is the concise history of the Dover Patrol. And as I was explaining at the beginning, is the reason why I have stopped producing... Hello. I have stopped producing videos. I'm re-recording the videos, I admit, on the monitors, because when this book arrived, it provided a whole load of history stuff and little stories which I wanted to add in, which weren't anywhere else, because it was written by Reginald Bacon and published in 1932. Admiral Reginald Bacon, who was one of the commanders of the Dover Patrol, not the Fluffy Research Patrol. What's that? Operational pressure or test pressure? That's operational pressure. So if you're talking about a 200-pound thing, that's what they can operate up to. So you could they're tested up usually a little bit higher than that, but you know. Brecon and Kendall. Most of Britain's admirals were destroyermen, hence the insanity of Britain. Not so sure about that one. Not as many. There are a fair number who were came from the destroyers. Probably because they get command and unit command early, so they get used to the idea, quite a junior rank, they get used to the idea of commanding more forces than just their ship. I.e., there's a commander in a destroyer flotilla would often be leading a division. Coming for me. Yes, you are. Which would be up to 4 destroyers. So therefore, at the rank of commander, they get used to being in command of multiple ships and coordinating multiple ships. If you're a captain, you're in command of a flotilla. So that means you're used to coordinating 8, 9 ships, including your own, which is all good experience for when you are promoted at higher rank. So therefore, a destroyer officer, and then there's of course the fact there is the actual position rear admiral destroyers, i.e. the junior most rear admiral in the Atlantic Fleet and in the Mediterranean Fleet is a rear admiral destroyers. So, i.e. there is a 2-star post which you pretty much have to have been a destroyer officer for. There are going to be a few who aren't, but that's rare. So that means it gives destroyer officers a bit of an advantage in getting to senior ranks. The same with aircraft carrier officers once as a rear admiral aircraft carriers, because suddenly there's a post which does require you to have actually captained an aircraft carrier, understand naval aviation, and it's rear admiral aircraft carriers. And when you have multiple of them, then, you know, I know, yes, I know. She dropped me off in here teething. Your teething, she dropped you off, and she didn't bring a teething ring with her, did she? So you're using my arms for it instead. I know. Luckily, I have no feeling there. That is puzzling the out of my dog. Yeah, he does that. I know, you're cute. Not a wolf. Tafra, all our little ones want to say hi. Well, hello. Hello to everyone. Hello, I am Tafra. I cost lots in terms of I keep eating anything that's put in front of me, including things I'm not supposed to eat. I have picked up a very bad habit. I have a habit of trying to eat my papa, and I have a habit of trying to eat my beds. But it could be worse. It could be worse. You're cute. Admiral Bacon, best served with Commodore Egg and Captain Fried Tomato. Don't forget Commander Beans. And probably Rear Admiral Sausage. Right then. Oh, okay. Next package will have some Kongs in it. So don't worry, he has Kongs. He gets Kongs filled with peanut butter, which has been put in the freezer, don't you? Yes, you do. You like your peanut butter Kongs. You can't have as many of them as you'd like, though, because you'd eat them all non-stop all day. Hello. 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 Calm down. Calm down. Good boy. Calm down. Calm down. Calm down. Good boy. Calm down. Yes, I'm the perfect one for you to do this to, because I have no feeling, do I? None at all. So you can bite away and I don't feel it. Earbuds are now, and so the dogs are now puzzled why I'm laughing and where the puppy went. Okay, right. So, post-World War I, Polish Navy's first commander was an ex-Austro-Hungarian DD destroyer captain. I seek Drax Anakonovic. He drove the SMS Shavnush in a canal stern first and got into pistol range with Italian infantry. Well, you might as well.
Has he done this?
He's been perfectly fine, but yes, I think he would like to go and get something for his teeth because he's teething.
Hello.
There you go, sis. The other Dr. Clark is in here currently, acting as doggy deliverer and extractor because she's painting her office next door. She wants to be in working from Monday, and she actually wants it painted. Take care, Fluffy. Trainee assistant, Fluffy research assistant.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Take care. Mm-hmm. Right. Ah, wait, that's better. Oh. And there can actually be a voice from the heavens in here because there is a little camera talking system I put in up here, a security camera. And yeah, my mum is probably watching through that camera rather than watching this way because that's her own view to watch from above. I wish I could I've got to find out a way of making the text bigger. In no feeling into your arms. Is there a story behind that something? Yes, when I was younger, I had lots of warts and verrucas. And in those days, the standard treatment was to have them iced, basically, with nitrogen. That was blown on. Anyway, I had so many ice that it's long-term feeling that I don't feel. Things like burning and those sort of things, I have no feeling in my lower extremities. It's useful, but it's also not helpful. It's like I managed to burn my finger the other day, and I only realized on the jigsaw actually. And I only realised afterwards when I was going, hang on, how did I burn my finger? And thought, oh yeah, I touched the jigsaw after I've been using it. Ah, it must have been blooming hot. So, getting back to this, why is this interesting? Why is this chapter interesting? Before the trainee assistant, Fluffy research assistant arrived, well, it talks through the destroyers, gives you a full outline of all the ships being built, all the torpedo boat destroyers, all the ships arranged in their classes, all the battleships, battle cruisers. What I love is he lists the battleships, doesn't differentiate between ones which are, well, how do I put this, dreadnought battleships and super dreadnoughts versus ones which are pre-dreadnought. But in all, her British fleet had squadrons in commission at home and abroad in August 1914. First Battle Squadron, Marlborough, the flagship, St. Vincent, second flagship, Colossus, Vanguard, Hercules, Collingwood, Neptune, and Superb, with the light cruiser Bellona and the repair ship Cyclops attached. Second Battle Squadron, King George V flag, Orion, second flag, Ajax, Conqueror, Audacious, Monarch, Centurion, and Thundra, light cruiser Boadicea, and repair ship Assistance. Third Battle Squadron, King Edward VII flag, Hibernia, second flag, Africa, Dominion, Britannia, Hindustan, Commonwealth, and Zealandia, light cruiser Blanche attached. Fourth Battle Squadron, Dreadnought flag, Temeraire, Bellerophon, Agamemnon, and light cruiser Blonde. Not Wolf. Oh wow. Andrew and Jay, what do you think of the Swedish Navy's designs during the first half of the 20th century? They're usually fairly interesting. The Swedish Navy tends to produce some pretty cool designs, especially their coastal defense ships. I don't really have a favourite, but it is something I'm tempted to do a series on at some point. The coastal defense ships of the Baltic, and look at them, because some of them can really pack a punch, and people go, "Oh, they're not equivalent to a battleship." We go, "Well, they're not supposed to engage a battleship on the high seas. They're meant to engage a battleship if it gets too close to their shores, and make sure you don't want to bring a battle fleet close into the Swedish coast." And they do that job very, very well, because again, they're going to be smaller, but they're going to have a lot of power. So the thing is, if I'm a bigger fleet bringing in my bigger ships, I'm going to have to risk a lot of firepower and a lot of capability to take over them. They're a form of deterrence, and they work very well for that. Brecken Kendall, why did they have a light cruiser assigned as battle squadrons? Well, two reasons. One was scouting, but the second reason was actually the same as why does Nelson need frigates at the Battle of Trafalgar? To relay signals. If they are communicating visually, using visual signals, and they're relying on flags and as well as radio, then they have to have a ship which will stand back to relay the signals. So there are lots of reasons for having it. Adorian J, you should have just answered Sweden would have kicked Norway in 1905. Well, I'd say Sweden would have the edge, but I'm not sure if that would be the design of the ship or the fact that their navy is pretty darn vicious. And as I said, due to my studying of Norway in 1940 and the various performances of their various armed services, I have no qualms about the Norwegian Navy in terms of its operational capabilities or operational members. I do have huge qualms in terms of its strategic command. And I do worry that it might not have changed much in the 35 years. Bracken Kendall, the Swedish Navy was clearly awesome because they used Spica torpedo boats, which were awesome. Yeah. Vision. Once was a torpedo boat that went to sea. The name of the boat was Number 3. The waves came up, the bow went down. Blow, my Billy boys, blow. Calvin Gasper, coastal battleships are for protecting your minefields, T-boats, and maybe small subs, and augment coastal fortresses. Pretty much. 1940. Well, wait, how does it offer deterrence close to shore exactly? So, if your trade is not long-distance naval trade, maritime trade, you're not really worried about protecting that because your economy isn't that orientated or defend around it, then what you're defending about is someone using naval forces to coerce you. In the age of presuming close blockade, if you can prevent a close blockade because they're going to have to produce a large... Basically, it's a risk fleet strategy, but it's a sensible risk fleet strategy. The thing is, the Germans, by building battleships, were engaging the British. It was a threat. They were building something which could come. If you're building a coastal battleship, then how can the Royal Navy take that as a threat? It's never going to reach them. But it means that they've got more problem reaching you. It's context, as always, and it's deterrence. It's quite clever. They also have attached destroyers to those battleships, and this is in First Fleet. Commander-in-Chief, the Iron Duke is the Commander-in-Chief's ship's flag, and he has attached ships Oak and Sappho. Attached destroyers, Aaron D. Swale, Boyne, Sherwell, X. And then they have cruisers. First Battlecruiser Squadron, Lion, Flag, Queen Mary, Princess Royal, and New Zealand. Second Cruiser Squadron, Shannon, Flag, Cochrane, Achilles, and Natal. Third Cruiser Squadron, Antrim, Flag, Devonshire, Argyll, and Roxburgh. Fourth Cruiser Squadron, Suffolk, Flag, Lancaster, Bristol, Berwick, and Essex. And First Light Cruiser Squadron, Southampton, Broad Pennant, i.e. she's a Commodore's ship, Birmingham, Nottingham, and Lowestoft. And minesweeping gunboats, Circe, Gossamer, Jason, and Leader, and Skipjack, and Speedo. And then there are flotillas of the First Fleet. And this is what the Grand Fleet was at this point called, the First Fleet. Or rather, the nascent force of it. And it's got 4 destroyer flotillas. And then there's Second Fleet, which has got 5th Battle Squadron. And 6th Battle Squadron, which seem to be pre-dreadnoughts, and they've also got their light cruisers for researching. And then there's Third Fleet. And then there's the Mediterranean Fleet. The Third Fleet, by the way, have 7th and 8th Battle Squadrons. Second Fleet also managed to add some submarines to its numbers. The Mediterranean Fleet also has a battle cruiser squadron, and a cruiser squadron, and light cruisers. And then there's the Eastern Fleet, with the East Indies Squadron, the China Squadron, New Zealand's division, and the various other things as well, and the Australian Fleet. Cape of Good Hope. So it's just, when you start looking through something like this, the list of the Royal Navy ships and their various classes, you start to realise just how large the Royal Navy was. And just how much power it had. It's also when you get the book like this, you start to go, right then, so I want to look up certain things, and I want to look up some designs and framing, and it goes, oh, well, I have a plan of the Iron Duke. Yeah. Iron Duke. And I will take pictures of these. And I have actually got a space to take pictures properly in here, which is something else I'm going to try and keep in here in the final design. It also has Queen Elizabeth class. And Tiger, the battle cruiser. And Arethusa, the light cruiser. And the E-class submarine. And a flotilla leader. And HMS Royal Sovereign, looking gorgeous in this picture. And HMS Agincourt. Every time I see this ship, I think that's basically someone just going, how many guns can I fit on her? Add more. HMS Erin. Similarly festooned with weaponry. Ooh. HMS Canada. Oh, it's got a Repulse and Renown. It's just got everything in it. It's a gorgeous book. Ooh, what's this one on the back? Back is HMS Courageous and Glorious, as they're originally built with their 15-inch guns. Or 12, 15? No, 12-inch gun or 15-inch gun? No, 15-inch guns, yes. And their pom-poms. And they're 4 inches. They've got triple 4-inch guns. You can tell they're designed to take out destroyers. They're literally designed to wipe out cruisers and destroyers in narrow waters. HMS Furious with 18-inch. I don't know why you're carrying them. Light cruisers. Ooh, this would be C-Class. And the Hawkins, which are listed also as light cruisers, yet they're carrying 7.5-inch guns. And monitors are in here, which is going to be fun because I'm going to use these pictures for my videos. And the various 9.2-inch monitors, the 6-inch monitors. It's just these books are just such massive resources for me. It's really, really cool. M-Class as well. Basically, I'm listing all these things. I'm going to take these pictures, and you will find them all on my Twitter. I will put all the pictures, because there's so many pictures, it's too much to list on YouTube, although I will put at least a one on YouTube with a link to the Twitter feed. So you can follow that. So I will set that up. I will do that in a bit. I won't waste your time by doing it, but there's about 2 dozen pictures in there, which are so cool. Mercy Corona, what's a coastal battleship exactly? Usually something with very big guns and very short range. It usually has quite heavy armor. Jermac, Deutschland-style Panzerschiefs are Swearing coastal defense ships? Yeah or nay? Replacement? Yeah, pretty much they were. Swearing class pre-World War design, so Deutschland is better because it's incorporated lessons of World War I. Has it really? Vision. Coastal defense battleships has a short range and low speed, but big guns and good armor. Smaller in size and cost a high seas battleship. Yeah. That's it. Seaman, how many guns? Yes. That is the thing with Agincourt's design. It is how many guns? Yes, yes. I can fit more. I love it. It's got there's all the designs in it, and it's a really nice profile in there. Even sloop Erebus is in there. Small China gunboat station gunboats. Oh, otherwise known as the. Insect class. Ooh, large China gunboats. Aphis Cricket. And, there's even some merchant ships in here. Floodable compartment cargo steamers. And merchant ship production. Ooh, various designs. Oh, that's cool. There is going to be lots of photos taken, as I said, shortly, and it's going to all appear on the Twitter feed. It'll be this evening after this. So what should we do next? Right then. Papers. Let's consider what papers. Jeffrey, afternoon. We are in the new office, I see. Yes. Broadly speaking. It's the first one from the new office, but it's going to get slowly more built as it goes on. So. Looked at 1919. Well, there's only one paper to look at in the next year. One paper that you all will be very, very interested in, and it's given by Eustace Dianecourt. And it's a 1920s book. It's going to make a fair number of you very, very happy. And I think I just broke my chair, didn't I? No, I didn't. Just the plastic covering slipped off. So, let's see. Yeah. Right then. Well, there's only one way I can do this, so I'm going to have to move the camera a bit for a second. But luckily, I have got a nice big space to lay it out on. Now, the paper I'm going to read to you next, and I'm just going to take this up, and it's going to go for a quick fly. So, I do apologise now, those of you who get motion sick. And I do remember one of the things I was told was never do that, but I thought you'd all want a good look at this particular paper. As we can see, there is HMS Hood. It's quite fun doing this over my shoulder. I'm not being quite sure if I'm getting the angle right. I do apologise if any of you are seeing my bare feet, but my socks got nicked by a certain floppy research assistant of it. It's pretty cool. Alright, back we go. Hello. Michael, so I was wondering where my hand sledge and mouse went. Bruh. I know. The insect class get up to interesting things wherever they are in the world. The insect class never knowingly have a boring day. Then these little shiny ships, people go, so what have the insect, everyone else goes, so what have you done in on your recent deployment? Well, I've done this, this, and this. And the insect class goes, what have you done in the recent deployment? This. That all? No, that was just today. So, here is the interesting thing. This book actually tells you what the 3 remaining Admiral-class battlecruisers were going to be called. Howe, Rodney, and Anson. The Hood was successfully launched in August 1918 at Clydebank, the ceremony being performed by Lady Hood, widow of Admiral Hood, who lost his life whilst gallantly leading the action of the 3rd Battlecruiser Squadron at Jutland. The launching weight was about 22,000 tons. As the other 3 ships of the class which were commenced had none of them reached the launching stage at the time of the armistice, subsequently decided not to proceed with them, in view of the international conditions. And the Howe, Rodney, and Anson were accordingly scrapped. No Nelson. This is by Sir Eustace Danicott. Following on the paper I read before this institution last year upon the naval construction during the World War, in which I gave a brief account of the provincial vessels designed and constructed during the war period, I now propose to give an account of HMS Hood, which will complete the series of big ships designed and built for the Navy down to the present time. Apart from the smaller craft, such as the destroyers and patrol boats, of which an immense number were required during the war, the type of large vessel which we were somewhat deficient in 1915 was the battle cruiser. It was known that the Germans were building several very important ships of this type, including the Deflinger, Lutzow, Hindenburg, and others to follow. Our own vessels would later be supplemented by the Renown and Repulse, and there were the very large light cruisers, Courageous, Glorious, and Furious, but these three later could not be regarded as battle cruisers in the proper sense of the term. I therefore received instructions in 1915 to prepare designs of battle cruisers, embodying the latest ideas in regard to underwater protection, speed, etc. A considerable number of designs were submitted to the board, but as there was no large berths available, it was not possible to place an order before the spring of 1916, and in the March of that year the board selected a design of the dimensions given below to be worked out in detail and proceeded with. This design formed the original basis for the design of Hood, having the same length and breadth as the Hood, but of considerably less draft vis-a-vis 5 foot and 6 inches normal and 29 foot deep, with a displacement of 36,300 tons on a length of 810 feet between perpendiculars. The speed was to be 32 knots, with machinery of 144,000 shaft horsepower. The armour, which was approximately equivalent to that of Tiger, consisted of an 8-inch belt and 9-inch barbettes. The armour was to be 8 15-inch guns and 16 5.5-inch guns, together with two 21-inch submerged torpedo tubes. I strongly advocated the adoption of this design of small tube boilers, and these were accordingly included for the first time in the design of a capital ship. This feature had the most marked influence on the whole design, on account both of the smaller space occupied and the reduced weight involved as compared with the space and weight which would be necessary for the large tube boilers which had hitherto been adopted in all our big ships, including Renown and Repulse. The first big ships, though they cannot be regarded as capital ships, as mentioned above, which had the small tube boilers, were the Courageous, Glorious, and Furious. The original design of Hood was approved by the board in April 1916, and orders were placed to build one ship, each with Messrs. John Brown, Messrs. Camel Laird, and the Fairfield Company, ships being named respectively Hood, Howe, and Rodney. Subsequently, an order for a fourth ship, HMS Anson, was placed with Messrs. Armstrong. It will be remembered that the Battle of Jutland took place on the 31st of May 1916. This, the greatest fleeting engagement of modern times, naturally led to further consideration of the design of the Hood, which had only just been ordered. And in view of the damage which had been done to our own battle cruisers and also to the German ships of similar type, it was deemed advisable to increase the armor protection if possible. As a result of very extensive investigations, it was found impossible, by accepting a deeper draft and a slightly reduced speed, to add very considerably to the protection of the vessels as already designed, without serious modification of the design of the ship as a whole. Accordingly, in September 1916, the definite proposals for increased protection were submitted. The alterations were of very radical character, the armour belt being increased from 8 to 12 inches and the barbettes from 9 to 12 inches, and certain increases were also made in the deck protection. The particulars, as thus finally decided, are given in Table 1 at the same time. I'll tell you why. At the same time, the 8 15-inch gun mountings had their design modified to emit an elevation of 30 degrees, and certain other modifications were made both in the torpedo arms and also in the arrangements for preventing the flash penetration to the magazines. A form of protection which was elaborated for all our ships at this time. All these increases involved an additional weight of nearly 5,000 tons, the legend displacement of the Hood becoming finally 41,200 tons, when carrying 1,200 tons of fuel, the ship then having a draft of 28.5 feet and a draft of 31.5 feet, with full load vis-a-vis 4,000 tons. Adam Finton used to have a very good book on the insect class. Can't remember the name. There is a huge one. That's huge. It is a big thing. It is a... I'm going to need a big table, and actually, until the railway's built, there will be a big table there. But eventually, there will be a sort of bigger. I will have. I might well build myself something I can plop down, so I can have a table to let enough these out. Right. The mission. The novel Senna Gumboat is a fun read. A non-fiction book of the same, also good, but on Victorian ships, not an interwar vessel. Sham. It's probably a good read. Do you know what? I just got tackled by a 7-month-old St. Bernard mixed with Permy's Mount, a puppy? Permy's? I'm not sure. First time watching for about 2 weeks. Please buy yourself some acoustic foam. The room is way too echoey. Well, it's going to have books in it, and we are probably going to deal with some acoustic foam. Yes, at certain points. We are probably going to deal something. I think it gets worse when I'm looking up. So probably acoustic foam on the roof, because the roof is an angle. Thank you for watching, though. It's under construction. And so we're going to get the shelves in first. And then once I've got everything in, I'm going to see what it's like with all the books in here and those things. And then I'm going to start thinking about foam and various other things. My sister's bought some acoustic tiles, so, you know, it could work. Evening, Thomas Van. Did you move to a ship finally, good doctor? No, it's a new office. It will be better once it's finished. It will be. I hope it's not too echoey. I'm sort of trying my best here. I'm figuring things out, so. I can't, it's going to sound strange, I can't hear an echo in here, or any echoey, but it's probably coming through on the thing, so I will need to spend some time with a good friend helping me out. Probably figuring this one out. Right then, let's see. Can we? What's the next one? What's the next one? Ooh. There's a great book in 1927 for an article from 1927 for when I'm doing an Age of Sail day. Let's go to 1921 though, because we've just done 1919 and 1920, so surely there must be something in 1921, which would actually be quite nice to have. Whoa! Notes on some features of German warship construction. Here we come. Oh yeah. That's what we're talking about. That's what we're looking for. Ooh. We have a paper on the Baden. Let me see. I'm not sure if this light is really helping me on this one, but if it isn't, I will figure it out somehow. Yay, that's showing up. Slowly get these things built together properly. I wanted to do this one in here today. I'm not sure if I'll do the recordings in here for this week. Probably do them back up in my bedroom. But, yeah. It'll be good. Gradually, once you fill it with books, that will scatter and absorb the sound. The problem is the bare walls. If there's still an issue after you do the decor, then add to get some foamy wavy tiles. Yeah, that's probably what I'll do, because you see, there's going to be books all down this wall, and there's going to be iron brew bottles on this wall, and there are going to be paintings as well, sort of things. Equalizer if present. Let's see. Let's see if we can fix the equalizer. We have an audio mixer, device settings. Well, we'll see if that sort of works, and hopefully, maybe that will stop the noises being quite so bad. And parametric equalizer, let's apply that one, and hopefully that's helped things out and made things better. So, has that worked? Because if that's made it better, that'll be a good thing. Hey, Baden. Right, so. Wait, you've got any tiles. Don't bring me any ideas. And I put all sorts of things in my sister's room. Stop noise going between the two officers. New one. Good afternoon, Doctor. Snuck away for a bit. See how many converts I can make for the A10 before she finds me. Not sure about how much success you have here. Alright. Team Mackenzie, picky people sounds fine. Yeah. I understand it. I am quite loud, so I do understand that people can sometimes that can overpower systems. So let's see. Let's go for a British Engineers Appreciations of the Baden. Gets quite cruel at certain points. This is by Goodall, S.V. Goodall, the gentleman who, of course, helped design Henderson design the Royal Navy of World War II. The ex-German battleship Baden was provided for the 1913-1914 program. Her keel was laid on December 20th, 1913, at the yard of the F. Schanhal, Danzig. She was launched on October 30th, 1915, commissioned on October 19th, 1916, and commenced her trials on November 5th, 1916. The ship is therefore particularly interesting for several reasons. The main features indicate the latest German ideas on battleship design for the vessel's building when the armistice was signed are almost identical. Moreover, since the Battle of Jutland was fought before the ship was completed, the lessons learned from real fighting should be apparent in details. Any weak features revealed by this experience should be indicated by alterations and additions of somewhat patchwork nature, while the entire absence of such changes would lead to the conclusion that German Navy contemplated no more fleet actions. Leading particulars. Length between perpendiculars, 560 feet, 4 inches. Length of LWL, 588 feet, 7 inches. And length overall, 589 feet, 10 inches. Breadth, extreme, 98 feet, 5 inches. Now, LWL, of course, is the waterline. Lloyd's waterline. It has not been possible to measure the stability accurately, nor to ascertain exactly the load carried when the ship is floating at the Lloyd's waterline. German practice is to assume that in this legend condition, all ammunition, an average quantity of stores, and a fraction of the total weight of fuel, usually about 900 tons, are on board. If this is be correct of Baden, it is estimated the ship exceeded her designed legend draft by more than a foot. What's worrying is when he keeps fighting it and keeps going, the Royal Sovereign's actually better than the ship. We have a problem here. The general construction scantlings of the vessel are indicated on plates 2 and 3. Attention is directed to the 4 docking keels, number of longitudinals, the closer transverse frame, spacing outside longitudinal bulkheads, the maintenance of wide spacing inside those bulkheads beyond the citadel, the light scantlings of the bottom framing, the considerable use of double connecting angles, the absence of beams under the protective deck, the stiffening of the fore and aft bulkheads, the form of brackets to beams, the amount of joggling and difficult smith work, particularly in the wake of the shaft bossing. The whole of the ship's company is thoroughly drilled. No, okay, let's go. Organisation for dealing with underwater damage. In action, it is the commander's duty to keep the ship safe and reasonably upright. For this purpose, a central command position is arranged in the lower conning tower, from which the officer in charge can communicate by voice pipe or telephone with the pumps, working positions of certain seacocks, and auxiliary leak control stations. In the central control position are fitted a pendulum to indicate actual heel and trim, and a board showing the weight of water which each compartment can contain, and the effect of this contained water on the draft, heel, and trim of the ship. The board is provided with colour pegs to mark the actual state of the vessel. The commander has full authority to take action, and is only required to consult the captain if the fighting value or buoyancy of the ship is considerably prejudiced. The whole of the ship's company is thoroughly drilled in this work and carefully instructed regarding the watertight subdivision and pumping, flooding, and draining arrangements. A model used for this purpose was found on board. Extracts from instructions found in the ship for dealing with underwater damage are given in Appendix 9. In conclusion, I decide to state that my thanks are due to Mr. M.P. Payne, Superintendent Admiralty Experimental Works, Haslar, who kindly corrected the sections on form and propellers, which are summaries of various reports made by him. I'm also indebted for the advice and the preparation paper to Sir Eustace Dennicott, KCB, Director of Naval Construction, who inspired me to write it. What I find the whole way through is a certain thing of going, yeah, this ain't as good as it's marked up to be. We keep talking about how good the ships are, and the Germans are, but it ain't, this one ain't as good. Not a wolf. Whoa, whatever you did made it sound great now. No spikes in the background. Cool. So, Thompson, it's got better. From someone who grew up in a full-size version of Office, the echo will dissipate once the books are in. The glass might chime a bit, though, depending on enthusiasm. Thompson, I'm not picky. I'm just a radio operator, so my ears are highly sensitive to any irregularity in noise, and I play a lot of Silent Hunter. Thousand re-echo. Went away from keyboard for a few minutes. Now I'm picking up at 1.5 speed. Now the echo is really sharp. Paul Johnson. Would the RN been better off without the R class to use the tonnage for more cruisers? Honestly, it would have been better to have better battleships. It would have been. Come on, moving mic. It helped as 1.5 goes. Speed goes. Thank you. There's an audio feedback loop somewhere in the room or computer. It's the automatic gain control. Found it. Dear Doctor, do you have an automatic volume control that controls the mic volume automatically? Not really. I do have a system in XSplit which is set up and should be running quite well. Should be, hopefully. Peter Dawson, Dr. Clark is a naval student, not electrical engineer, specializing in SP. Yeah, I would say that. I will. How do I put this? I have a friend. I will have a talk with them. We'll try and figure it out and make sure it works. But again, this room is nowhere near complete because, as I said, Shelves have to go on at least another. I've got the wood for at least another layer already. A set of shelves, they will go up. And then eventually I will get the wood in for the model railway. Because the model railway shelf will need to be marine ply. That sounds probably kind of strange, but marine ply is the wood you build the boards decent. Well, when you're building decent boards for model railways, so that you can put foam on and everything and put the decent railway on, it's marine ply. So first of all, I have to confirm the size and design. Anyway, it's now almost 9 o'clock, so I'm going to go into the Q&A session of this. And basically just drink iron brew and answer questions till the end, which will be about 9:30 when I will go take the dog for a walk. Here's right. Listening to the good doctor at twice speed is fun, especially when catching up and then dropping down to 1 time speed again. So that's awesome. I think the RN could have used more battle crews in towns. The R's were useful, though misused badly. I think they could have used them more, could have used them better, and honestly, here's the thing. If they had been a bit faster, built a bit faster, as it was, so they could have actually got some higher speed, just a few more knots, and managed to have their engines upgraded at some point during the interwar period, so they could have, like the Japanese ones did, if they'd found the money for that, then I think they would have been very useful as aircraft carrier escorts, especially in the ocean. Thanks, Thomas. Don't worry. I understand. Amazon, how much of the German fleet was salvaged for intel, or did they have enough scrap value plus clearing as the anchorage? Pretty much that. Pretty much that, huh? Makes sense. Marine ply doesn't warp or stretch, which would ruin their layout. Exactly. Also, I'm going to have to design it so it's not actually connected to the walls, because all the rest of the walls is made of, all the building is made of larch. So that will expand and contract and various other things. And if I make the center part of marine ply and I connect it too tightly, it will actually warp the wood. But I have an advantage in that they have supplied plenty of these. And my idea, because of course these have a moving one, is to use these to link them to wooden posts, which rather like this run around the wall, and have a wall of these built up to support it at various points. See, Mousy, your book on the Falklands is out when? Available in the US? It's going to be an edited book. I'm producing a chapter. My girlfriend's producing a chapter. With me and my girlfriend are two editing it. And Julian Thompson, Michael Clapper writing a joint chapter. We're getting chapters from all sorts of people. It's really good. Quite cool. And it's going to be out beginning of next year. Probably December this year, January next year. Steve Makowski. Your book on the Falklands, that's on that one. And Carhaman, opinion all current RN warships having 2 twin 4.5-inch turrets, or at least one based on the Type 31 or something. I would be supportive of them getting a twin turret, because I think, honestly, we are looking at a problem in that we are used to wars of choice and used to fighting people who are nowhere near peers. And as the demonstration of the Falklands War and various other conflicts have shown over the years, when you're fighting a peer, the amount of high explosive you need to apply to get the same result is a lot more and a lot quicker. Would it be okay to use the name of a game company that I've been using to run simulations of Dogger Bank in 1915? Yep.
So Hindenburg at least was new enough to be worth examination by the Royal Corps of Constructors. Yes, they can examine them, but it was basically look at them and go, are you sure this is a German-built ship? Yeah. But we were told they were amazing. Adrian J, why did the RN not get the 40mm bow for 40mm L-cylinder in the 50s like the Army? Because they were told the future for navies was all missiles. It's stupid, but it's where we learnt in the Falklands a naval gun support is much better than land artillery, so you should give them it for as long as possible and as good as possible to help landing and help out the other operations ashore. After all, naval gunfire support has done a lot of operations over the years. It really has. Sorry, a little black nose came to the window, then disappeared off. Rick Valsasa, I read today that Canada won't get its new frigate. They will get its new frigate. Here's the thing. It will take 10 years to build. Probably get them building. Because the only way that Canada can get them quicker is if they build some in the UK, because they don't have the yard space and the yards built up, and the British yards are starting to churn out Type 26 already. Okay, yes, it's going to take us a couple of years before they're built, but we're going to be getting a Type 26 probably in 2024, 2025 into the water, and probably the others will follow on from that. Probably even earlier, actually, considering it started in 2020. So possibly 2023. There are different ideas for how long it's going to take them. My experience is usually the first batch has the big problems, but there again, if you go by the Astute class submarines, well, if you do redesign them so that the second batch is pretty much almost an entirely new submarine internally, you can be surprised how long it can take to build the second batch as well. So, yes, it's going to take time to build these ships, but this is what happens, especially when you run down your defense industry. Honestly, and this is going to sound terrible coming from Britain, but we've been keeping a more constant drumbeat of construction than Canada, and that's not really setting a big enough bar. If you want real trouble, have a look at poor Australia. Honestly, they're sitting there going, yeah, we're going to build the Hunter class, and everyone else is going, good luck. Type 26 is a really good design. It's a really advanced, really cool frigate, and it's a really capable hull. It's also a modern, very modern frigate design, and it's going to require a lot of skills to get it working and get it built properly. Again, if Canada and Australia wanted them more quickly in service, the British could increase the pace at drumbeat of our construction and could build a couple of units each for them, which would enter service before, so that their first ones would be the first two be British built, and then the rest of their construction could take over the flow. But that's it. Why did the RM go with a 4.5-inch gun? Because of it just was what they developed, and it would work well. They were looking for something which would fit between the 4-inch high-angle AA gun and the 4.7-inch standard naval gun, and they wanted it as high as it could, so they went to 4.5-inch. The Americans just went 5-inch. We're going to make it into an AA gun. We're going to make it into this. We're going to make it into that, and they did. Okay, I so need new stuff, new cables for this internet in here. I will have to order something. Bruships. I like how Tickerongas have two 5-inch guns, one 4.5. Being stretched Zumwalt with a stern 5-inch would be a good idea. Possibly. Probably, actually. Carl Harmon, 440mm on each warship as minimum. I would, if you follow me on Twitter, that's at AC_Naval History, and it does say Dr. Alexander Clark as the name. You will see that yesterday I found a great photo of the 35mm Gatling Phalanx, which was proposed in, I think, the 70s, 80s, and no one went with it. And I was basically going, I'd like this, but in a 40mm with programmable shells, please. It'd be very useful. King's Rook. The Irving dry dock space is also in use building the DeWolf at the moment, and the CSC isn't fully designed. Yeah. Don't worry, I corrected when I said it. Thomas Vandal, we all do typing stuff. Thomas Vandal, I'm always a big gun man. I love the old guns a lot more than the missiles modern stuff. Artillery has the advantage; it can continue prepping positions for days if needs be. And if you have a navy, it kind of makes sense to keep as much as possible of your guns afloat as land-based artillery. It is useful. Jeff Hitter, Canadians' frigates are a major employment program. We will get them eventually. Yep. The order. Using naval warfare simulations to run the scenario 15 times, I found the German fleet could pull off a minor victory, or better, about 70% of the time, if they were aggressive. Yeah, that sounds about right. So Thompson, I saw 2035 for our Type 26 when they were supposed to be ready about 2025 originally. I'm very angry about it. The thing is, it's like when the paper we were talking about earlier, when he said, building Hood, they had to wait till there was berth space. You either have to build a new berth, in which case you have to either have it as a government-owned berth that you pay for private contractors to come in and construct in when you're using it, when not, your government just pays for it to be maintained, or you have to have a completely government-owned yard, or you have to have enough of a construction program going to keep that production facility going, because otherwise private industry isn't going to build it. This is one of the interesting things. Britain is actually on the cusp of having two-yard escort factories. In that, there's the Babcock yard producing the Type 31s and then probably the Type 32s. And there's the BAE one producing the Type 26s and then probably the Type 45 successors. And if we can keep that up, a two-level, two-tier yard system of construction, we will be in a far stronger place for getting export orders, but also in a far stronger naval place. And employment-wise. And it will actually make ships cheaper. This is the thing I keep trying to make with. Half the expense, if you're looking at the Canadian program, the Australian program, is because the shipbuilding construction industry has got down so low, it needs to be built up. And you need to suddenly generate these skills. And that's going to be half the problem. And, if you look at the Collins class, that was the entire history of them, which is why you ended up going, the Australians ended up going with the French. We can all worry about that one. David, Dr. Clark now looks 5 feet tall. Yeah, it is interesting. Let's see, does that work? Better. So when you realise this is quite a high space, that's one of the nice things. But it does mean my books are going to be some that I am going to eventually probably get in here a ladder that's going to swing across the room for me to get to the top shelf easily of books. Calm guys, the Kirils only have twin 130 millimeter, albeit water cooled, full auto. That does not look puny for a more massive ship. John Shea, small question, Doctor. But if Hood sisters Howe, Rodney, Anson were named and built, what would be Nelson's sister would be named if not Rodney? Or would the Nelson class be a single ship or not built? If Howe, Rodney, and Anson had all been built at Hood's level, you have a thing. If they had been further along construction, they'd have either been turned into aircraft carriers, a la Lexington and Saratoga, at least two of them, or if they'd all been built in time that they'd been finished off before the Washington Treaty, there would have probably been a mass panic attack by the Americans and the Japanese, in that the British would have probably been forced to give up. Basically, the British would have probably ended up with the Queen Elizabeths, and you'd have probably ended up with the British going, we have the Queen Elizabeths, we have the R class, so we have 10 battleships, and we'll have 6 battle cruisers, and that'll be our 16 ships. And if they are allowed to build 2 more modern ships, then you could call it Nelson, and the other one might be Collingwood. But it would be interesting if they were allowed to build more battleships. It would be sensible to have 12 battleships and 6 battle cruisers. That would be a fairly good division, and Britain would probably form that into like 3 squadrons: the battle cruiser squadron, the first battle squadron, the second battle squadron. But they'd work it out somehow. Neil Woodham, the German fleet never got away without a bloody nose, but the British battle cruisers had a tendency to take heavy damage. Early damage led to less damage being put out. That wouldn't surprise me. But it also depends. No, the costliest of a German victory was when Tiger exploded from a magazine hit. Ouch. Adrian J, like the RN will be given the money for all the Type 26 weapons. Probably, actually. It's going to sound strange, but the British, the Type 26 will probably be fitted with. Especially as it's seen as part of our commitments to. Okay, so I have to. I'm writing a small article on this. At the moment, I'm writing 2 articles. One article is about my book to be come out in March, and one article is about British carrier deployment this year. And that article is basically going into why is Britain doing some of the things it's doing. And the Type 26s will be fitted with and not for, rather than being fitted for but not with, for the reason that they are going to be quite status units. Expect them to fill the role of... Excuse me. Are we alive? Good. Sorry, sister next door. I heard a swear word and a loud bang, so I wanted to check she was okay. If you're the Type 26s are going to fulfill, when you've got the Type 31s out there, you're not going to have enough Type 45s to do the carrier, the amphibious task group, and those sort of duties, and go around the world as your heavy presence ship when you need a ship to turn up, which is a big signifier, but you don't want to deploy a carrier battle group. You need an intermediary ship. That's what a Type 26 is going to be. It's going to be also be used for that. So it's going to have to be fitted with those things because that's its presence and status. And it's very important for Britain to have global status at the moment because with us pulling back in terms of not being part of the European Union, but trying to therefore push forward as ourselves around the world. So we're adjusting to our changing world and our changing position in it. It's going to be, the Type 26 is going to be are basically the face of Britain as far as the Navy is concerned when when it needs to make a big impact, but doesn't want to go here's the full carrier group. You really want to mess with us? Really? The nations which can deploy one of these, you can count on like one hand. Do you really want to do this? So make sure I haven't missed any questions. It was a great post. Gemma. Neil Woodall, the Cutlass German regime done that. Anna Flinton, curious if any Marines have strapped some 155mm batteries to a flat deck and tested HIMARS rocket launchers from an HT deck. The SMC does a lot of stuff, as Jermex pointed out, but that means more. Doesn't matter. My ice naval power got opened by a simple game called Civilization and playing as the British Empire versus Napoleon. How I love turning naval into soft power. Vision. How did warships designed in US and UK go from being done in-house by navies to now selecting designs from private contractors for ships to be built in private shipyards opposed to government yards? People kept saying it was cheaper to have private industry do it. Not necessarily the truth. But there again, you don't want to spend the money to keep to make the things. You're not building the fleets to keep a government yard open and make it economic. The idea is you pass it over to civilian yards because they're doing other construction projects, so that's economic. But the fact is, to build warships is so specialized that it becomes de facto government-dependent companies anyway, which means you might as well have them in-house, honestly. Carl, should RCN and Iran have the Type 31 as well? Probably. Would be a nice way to leaving out the costs. Sub Thompson, I knew we were in poor shape, but not that bad off. Damn, okay, guess I have a few more papers to write now. Basically, the biggest problem for most nations at the moment is the number of shipyards they have available to build stuff. That's the problem. Kingsroad, I don't see the RCN getting Type 31s. The RCN is going heavily on the high capability platform. The Type 31 strikes me as not capable enough for the frigate role for us and too much overlap with the Type 26s for our small ship use, aka Kingston, while not filling in the role of the Kingstons well enough. It's basically the Type 31 is your long-range deployed asset. So basically, Type 31, you can argue, is a stripped-down frigate in some respects because it's supposed to be deployed and operated at distance. So everything is stuff which, frankly, you're not so worried about someone getting and the look at. So you can have it operating from, let's say, in Bahrain or in Singapore. Forward deployed, if anything happens, basically, it's going to cost a fair bit for anyone to engage it. But if you lose it, it's not a major loss to your force, although you don't want to lose the people. And you don't want to lose a ship, of course, but basically it's a forward presence ship. So if Canada and Australia start wanting to get involved in the forward presence mission, then a Type 31 style ship starts to make sense. If they are going to concentrate on the war fighting and the turning up when you need to say no, then the Type 26 is the vessel you need for that. And that's the thing. King's Rook, are we alive? Definitely a brother. Yeah. Could have been worse. I could have gone and taken a photo. So, Johnson, is there an HMS or HMCS Collingwood coming up? It would be great to two birds, the Admiral and Collingwood town. But yeah, HMS Collingwood is one of one of the Royal Navy's bases. It's one of the land bases. That one's in Portsmouth, I think. Nordic Wolf, definitely brother. Yep. Neil Woodall, England, America. Two nations sharing a common language that has two separate meanings. Yep. Carl Re 155mm towed artillery ship. Would recoil seriously damage the ship? Not really. If you set it up right, it should be okay. You have to set it up right and make sure you did some maths on quickly. Made sure it was on a strong enough part of the deck. I.e., don't put on the point where the deck is only 2 mil thick. Put it on the point where the deck is at least 10 to 11 mil thick, if not thicker. Hi, Dr. Clark. Lovely of us. Thank you. I'm hoping the sound is better now. I said that it was earlier. Carmen, Air Force and Navy will see most money for the next few years to make Britain look good. Pretty much. Plus, there's the fact that I keep seeing a lot of papers reading this, and I've actually been saying this for a while. The British Army is not sure what it wants and has instead of being selling itself as a concept, has been selling itself as a system. I.e., buy Boxer, buy this, buy that. And it's going, why are we buying it? the Royal Navy's policy has been, we still alive? Okay, just checking. Alright. For someone painting, you are swearing a lot. Before anyone thinks I'm letting her do anything high danger, no. I won't even let her assemble her IKEA furniture herself. It's not safe. Right. There is going to be more soundproofing put between the walls as well. Kingsbrook. Meanwhile, the CSC is going to be both ASW and AA in a single hull, so our general purpose prestige vessel, a light cruiser of sorts, pretty much. That is what the Type 26 is. It's land attack and anti-submarine with limited air, with point area air defense. Not a wolf. Is the Constellation more Type 26 or Type 31? It's somewhere in between the two, because the Arleigh Burke is somewhere between the Type 26 and Type 45 in terms of profile, although it carries far more missiles. It should be about the moment the Kriegsmarine, Austro-Hungarian Kriegsmarine, finally ordered the Svans into the van. Danibus blasted out a huge chunk of rock to expand the slipway. Vision. I read in proceedings that there is hope that a return to industrial policy under Baden could aid the US Navy by expanding shipbuilding capacity. Right now, China is said to be really cranking out the ships. They are really cranking out the ships. The question is, are they cranking out the ships at high quality or not? And the thing is, I would say they're probably trying to, but I would be worried about some of them. There was the fire in the LHD, which they basically just painted over, so said it was okay, but it sounds like it's going to cause damage. There was various other things with their smaller vessels. And considering some of the quality of construction issues they've had with some of the buildings they've built, I would say that, I'd be a little bit on the worried side. But there again, they're going to have numbers, and therefore mass can help make things a little easier. Steph Thompson, Kingston to me is our river batch 1.5. The 31 would be good for us. It would be. Adam Flinton, Duckham is better based than Bahrain, helpfully closer to Messiah. Coincidence? Probably not. Vision, being alive is a good policy. It is. Adrian J. Firing in the opposite direction right before the Swedish coastal artillery were disbanded, they tested the AS-90 and Panzer Hellspeed 2000 as a coastal artillery, and they were really good. Cool. Calvin Gassman, isn't the she Dr. Clark an engineer? Yes, my sister is a civil engineer, a geotechnical civil engineer, and one of the best. But we do not let her near actual construction. Okay? When it comes to soils, very good. When it comes to building and apparently painting, well, apparently she's broken rollers. 4 rollers. You didn't hear that. He's broken 4 paint rollers. So, and just, I really should have said I do it, but there's only 70 hours in the day and she wanted to be in there on Monday. Yeah, what up? The echo is gone. Your sister, on the other hand, has me giggling. I can't hear what she's saying, but I know that tone of voice. Yeah. Again, when the books are up here, that probably may have an effect on it. No. Not addition. No. Possibly, actually. I thought possibly she could be repainting herself more than the wall, but yeah, it's interesting. I've seen this documentary about Reginald's industry, BAE, here on Belgian team. Very damaging, to say the least. The Royal Navy wasn't mentioned, however, ironically enough. Yeah, BAE gets a bad rep sometimes, but they do quite good. They have an interesting disconnect in that they can produce some quite good things, and they can also produce terrible things in the same yard. But we do often say BAE exists to give Camel Laird work. BAE build the ship, and then Camel Laird send it to fix it. So it's basically, how do I put it? In America, you have a habit of you buy a car, whereas in Europe, it's standard you buy the car and that's what you drive away with. In America, I've noticed quite a lot, especially people who, like me, like their cars, tend to buy the car and then take it to a tuning shop and spend almost as much money getting it tuned as they did actually buying the car in the first place. And it gets all sorts of things out of it. Basically, consider Camel Laird's the BAE shipyard tuning shop. So you have the ship as built, and then you have the ship as tuned by Camel Laird's. The Type 45s are currently all being tuned by Camel Laird's. Good luck, rest of the world. As built, they're fairly decent, but there are issues. As tuned by Camel Laird's, hide. Turn to Lenga. Tom Fannel. Okay, dear Doctor. Chinese surface ship or Soviet nuclear submarine? Which would you choose to serve on? A surface ship. There's always the hope of a life raft. The nuclear submarine, I just don't want the radiation poisoning. Turn to Lanka. Dr. Clark. The Chinese have focused during the last 40 years on productivity technology to make large projects finish faster. We're seeing the compound interest in investment. Oh, yes, we are, definitely. Type 31s are over 5,000 tons, yes, and they have VLS and all sorts of things. Kevin, so same sort of thing we had with the SA-80 and HK. Yeah, Hancockler, yes. Have a nice day, Doctor. Well, I haven't finished yet. Don't take this the wrong way. I'm not going in till I've heard her stop, till I'm sure she's okay. So I might as well chat with you, if you don't mind me chatting, until my sister's finished, so I can be sure she's still alive. But actually going and watching next door might be a bit scary for me, so I will just listen from in here. Come, Type 45. Hello, I am Vestas Destroyer. Air Defense Destroyer. Very good. The only thing I would like them to be adding in the tuning is if I would like them to be fitting the Mark 41 VLS. Those 16 cells on a Type 45 would be really, really helpful about now. Preferably loaded with SM3 and Talam. Madeline 6040. Wait, what? The radiation? What radiation poisoning from nuclear submarine? Soviet submarines had a habit of poisoning their crews. Especially some of the earlier model ones, in that they had issues, let's say, with the radiation. Well, some of the coolant water would mix with the wrong pipes, and you'd end up with issues. Broadly speaking, okay, but still, if I have to pick the two, there's a small risk of one sinking, but at least I've got a lifeboat. The other one has a moderate risk of me getting radiation poisoning, and there is no way of getting away from it while you're in the sub. So I picked the small risk of sinking, but I still have a lifeboat. I would serve on a Typhoon. Swimming pool, sauna, escape pod, twin pressure hull. Still the nuclear reactors. You can't use the escape pod to get away from a reactor slowly leaking radiation. Just wouldn't make sense. And not all of them did have escape pods. Telephone. Sounds like I'd like to work on that yard. No plans, just make this more nasty if necessary by tearing down the whole ship. Yes, Camel Laird's is a great yard to work at, and it's a lovely place to go and visit, and it's where my dad did his apprenticeship, so. Neil Woodham, thoughts on USMC literal strategy? It's similar to people writing that the British Army can be smaller and still be more lethal, and you can do more with small units. Everyone's always great in peacetime about saying how powerful small units are going to be, and then in wartime they start talking about needing divisions. The literal strategy sounds good. It sounds like the US Armed Forces are preparing to play defensive in at least the first phase, or possibly the middle phase, first and the opening and middle phases of any conflict in the Pacific, which would make sense. I think they're aiming a little bit too small, and I'd be emphasizing. If I was them, they're emphasizing everything on the JLTV and making that their tactical system as well, and putting everything on that. I would be going, we're building an amphibious APC which can literally self-deploy between islands in this sort of limited sense. Or it can drive itself get over the coral like the LVT, get itself onto shore, or get back to the ships. I would basically be picking that unit and going, everything has to be designed to go on that. It either has to be a specialist missile-carrying version of it, or it has to be troop-carrying, it has to have guns, command center, everything. We will build everything around these units. And that's what I would have done. Mm-hmm. Adam Findon, father was a director of BAE. Government plus military have a problem with actually deciding what they want and then allowing it to be built. Yes, US are much better at this with their spiral design policy. I would agree. I would say, though, that the Type 31s, I'm really impressed with the procurement orders and the way they've structured it. Basically, it's a signed contract, which means the government can't change its mind. And whoever wrote that for the government was an absolute genius. Because it stops subsequent governments coming in and going, well, change your mind. Oh, no. Or subsequent ministers. That's more often what happens. Samuel, still, I think if the budget's there, replace the entire system, a Silver A50 with Mark 41 on Type 45. The trouble is, actually, do they have the space for the cells? Because remember, the Mark 41 VLS, especially if you're going for strategic length, is the same as the A70. The A50 is shorter. It's the air defense version of the Silver system. It's also slightly faster at launching, and therefore has a slight advantage on the VLS sense. So, it's 6 of one and half a dozen of the other. That's the trouble. There's an interesting discussion going on about Kingstons versus Rivers. Can we all agree they are both underarmed and slightly too small? But the Kingstons are probably orientated more about ice water operations than the Rivers. Bud Guy 8829, hello. Do you think anybody will build a new class of cruiser that are actually called cruisers? Also, what do you think of the Constellation class not having a hull-mounted sonar and just a heterogeneous sonar? Well, honestly, how often do you use the hull-mounted sonar? It makes sense. I would make sure I'd be carrying reserve towed sonars in case I lose it. That's why your main reason for having a hull-mounted sonar on something like a Type 26 or something like that. It's literally because that is a specialist anti-submarine warfare vessel, and if it loses its towed array, you're in trouble. So you carry usually a pair of towed arrays, so if one goes boom boom, necessary, afterwards you can turn on active sonar from your hull-mounted and go, right then, we can see you. The trouble is then things in a lot further away than you can see can also hear you and go, ah! And start popping missiles off at you. Do you think anyone will build a new class of cruisers that are actually called cruisers? Yes. Because if the Chinese start calling their class cruisers, and they pretty much are cruisers, they officially call them destroyers, but I'll be surprised if they start calling them cruisers at a certain point, and the Russians build a new class of cruisers, which they do have them around, then the Americans are not going to want to be out of the cruiser market. And I wouldn't be surprised if some of the other nations start building cruisers as well, because here's the thing. If you have less carriers, less LHDs going around, less of these expensive ships, although you have more nations having them, but less, and then each nation having less overall, you suddenly start needing that status ship. You start needing a bigger status ship, and the cruiser becomes a very useful status ship. I'm calling it a cruiser, because you don't want it to be a destroyer, because it's just not a destroyer. It's a cruiser. Something with status. It's for a flag. Let's see. I've answered that one off with the silvers. And what about letting Otto Malera have a look at those silver VLSs? Oof, we could always dream. Cavalairs will do a good job on them. Not a Wolf. The Super AV looks decent. It's already got different versions development from what I've read. Super AV is what the USMC has recently chosen. Yeah, and it's a good one. It's BAE modified. It's a good design. I love the Royal Marines that have had it. I honestly think myself that the British Army's gone for the wrong one. I'd have gone down, we're going the expeditionary route, and I would have orientated British defence around 3 strike brigades and 3 armoured brigades. But one of those strike brigades would have been the Royal Marines, also with these Super AVs, and all the I would have the armoured brigades raced around Ajax and Challenger until I got a new tank, and I would have 2 Army strike brigades and the Royal Marines based around the Super AV. The US Marine Corps APC, and that's how I would build the forces, but anyhow. It would make sense, and then you have a couple of infantry brigades for where you need infantry brigades, those engagement works, and have a parachute brigade. Because you like having a rapid reaction force, and it's good to have a rapid reaction force around the world for going into friendly places as a tripwire. But maintain that your Royal Marines are going to be the force that turned up and goes, hello. Yes. What is the problem here? Preferably in squadron strength, so that's battalion strength to anyone else. So, a more battle group strength. Dr. I think folks who doubt Chinese engineering capacity need to look at the PLA Type 05 amphibious armoured vehicle. It is a Chinese version of US MC's cancelled AAV that worked. I know, it's good. Look, I don't doubt their ability to design stuff. I don't doubt their ability to build vast quantities of it. I do doubt sometimes their quality control on those vast quantities. But that happens. Neil Woodall, thank you for that. I think Command is wrong in the strategic vision. I agree with you that the vehicle that does not exist needs to, if this strategy is followed. Yeah. Must have a second one coming there, but it hasn't popped up yet. Sorry, Neil. Yes, they're both small and underarmed. Kingston's armed are strengthened. They're just metal minesweepers. Oh, yeah, metal minesweeper. It's not good. Metal and minesweeping is not a good thing. If you can build it out of plastic, build it out of plastic. Great sadly, Total Rays is probably going to be replaced by standoff sensor drone groups for more flexible. Yeah, probably at some point. But how soon and how long? They've been talking about that for the last 15, 20 years. I know. I've talked with Engaging Strategy and I've talked with Fighting Sailor on Twitter about it. And I've talked to various other people in person sometimes about it. And they're a lovely idea, but they keep talking about it and keep telling me it's only 5 years away. It's going to be 5 years away. It's been 5 years away since I've been 16 years old. Which is, sadly enough, not 16 years ago. Or even 15 years ago. It's more. It's not 20 years ago, don't get me wrong. It's nowhere near, not that yet. But, it's no. And the big commercially built trawlers with towed array crewed by Iron Reserve. That would probably be quite cool. Calvin Gas mode. Towed array versus sonar drones. It's like aircraft carriers, cap and flak. Sounds sensible. Neil Waddle. The commander is stuffing the command with his people. The strategy is to stay, it seems. I usually find that the trouble is when commanders start stuffing command with their people, and the command stuff, that means that usually what happens is the next commandant who disagrees with that will then get rid of everyone, and you lose all the institutional knowledge. I personally have a view that you should never stuff your command if you want to retain institutional knowledge and actually make something last. Because all you do is start a perpetuate program where people just keep getting rid of everyone else who disagrees with them. And I've heard Super AV tuned by BAE. Chuckle. It is surprising, but actually, again, BAE turns out to be a fairly good tuning company when it's not something they don't build. Just look at the F-35. Half the fixes that have happened with that have been Lockheed going, and BAE going, hand it over, you twonkers. Love the small unit versus division segment, by the way. Well, because it's true. That's why I don't understand elite units. They get wiped out in a month of war, usually. Yeah. You see, the elite units are sexy. Everyone loves your SAS, your SBS. They're wonderful. And they are really cool. But don't expect them to do the job that a battalion does. And don't expect a battalion to do the job the Special Forces do. They do different jobs. The SBS, the SCS, they are really, really planned things in depth. They're small forces. They go and do very, very high risk, but potentially high reward missions. But if you send them into and tell them that you've got to do regular patrol duties, they haven't got the numbers. They can't hold anywhere. They haven't got, these are units which are very useful, but they're very useful doing that specific role they're for. You have to have the other force for the rest. It's just silly. So, with the Commando Strike Brigade, how would it work with Air Mobile side of the RM and new sort of special forces route they're on? It would, well, it could work quite well because what you do is you basically go, right then, so we can insert you by helicopters and then your next wave will come in by organic lift. Like, that's why you have the US Marine. The thing is, I think the Royal Marines are heading too like semi-special forces, and I think this is a problem. I would, if they had that, what I would say if I was building literal strike ships, I would be going, right then, so I need to be able to insert a company by air, and I have another company on here which can go in their air super AVs, and those two companies can meet up. And I'll have a third company back here which I can deploy by air or by super AVs depending on what I need. And you know, that's the thing. I have a support company, I have logistics, everything put on the ship, some artillery, everything all contained, and I have enough super AV units to move 2 or 3 companies. I have the air strength to move a single company at once, and then that gives me a lot of capability. And also, there's the fact that the super AVs can self-deploy, so that frees you up to carry CB-90s and other vessels rather than having to carry landing craft. Or if you have landing craft utility, that can move your heavy stuff in if you need to move heavy stuff in, but you can then don't have to carry LCVPs or the landing craft vehicle personnel. So you can carry combat boats on those davits, and it makes life a lot easier actually for the Royal Marines if you start to think it through. Right. Kind of thing. Curious factory. Soviet AGI flight trawlers had underwater torpedo tubes. That doesn't surprise me. It's something to have fun. Calvin Gasper. What about China having good quality control, but their stuff is not actually as capable as market, but works 24/7? That's going to be a problem. Peers and near peers. Remember, in World War II, we have a classic example of someone using a 80% solution to overwhelm a 100% solution by just producing 10 of them to the one. King's Rook. That reaction is appropriate. The Kings to get used to standoff minesweepers. If that's minesweepers all, that mostly function as soups these days. So that's mine countermeasures more than mine sweeping. That we call them different things. Mine countermeasure versus mine sweeping. Mine sweeping means you go in and sweep it. Mine countermeasures means you stand off and let other things go in and sweep it and keep as far back from my field as you physically can. And pray. A lot. Hello, Moontown. I'd just like to say thank you for the informative and educational contact. Thank you. Pleasure. Can't. Maybe it's like having a second pair of eyes to look over things. Most things in life are. Guys, Thomas Fanel, the usual problem. When you have 4 to 5 companies and competing designs, it's capitalism at best. When there are 2, that is cartelling. Yeah. Thomas Fanel, high-risk, high-reward missions, also very good description. The casualties are inherently potentially very high too, so most elite units cannot be used for the average cannon fodder. No. I think Stanley would have said something like, if you try to do something unplanned with Special Forces, it takes 62 times as long. Yeah. This is the thing. There are so many issues on them. Kingsrow, thanks for the clarification. The Kings are indeed called mine countermeasure ships. Yeah. It's the difference between the Hunts and the Sandowns. The Hunts are capable of mine sweeping. They have the plastic hull. The Sandowns have a metal hull and are mine countermeasures. They're all used as mine countermeasures ships these days, but you're far less worried about a Hunt getting close to a minefield by mistake than a Sandown. A Sandown gets close to minefield, you're going, a lot. And just for clarification, before anyone thinks that's me being rude, I am Protestant, but I went to St. Mary's University College, Twickenham. So I spend a lot of time around a Catholic priest. because Father Jerry, when he was there, loved me because I would actually play chess against them and win. Did a couple of times. He's a nice guy. That was years ago. It was cool. That means I do not do that in vain. Or I do not do that as a sort of a joke. It's quite serious. Because how are classes going? Teaching's fun, always. Good old Comrade Stalin's logic. Quantity has a quality of its own. No, it's not just Stalin's logic. It's been around a long time, that logic. Let's be honest, the British Indian Army had that logic. The British Army in the Boer War had that logic. Lots of nations have had that logic. Napoleon had that logic. You turn up with enough numbers and organized and concentrated, you win. Samurai special forces are able to do insane things. They do because they take ages to plan everything out. Then go and achieve a very specific objective, then leave. Bingo. Then armies that do not have enough line infantry tend to overuse and destroy their elite infantry. World War II US Army Ranger units in Italy come to mind here. Modern US Army Ranger units come to mind as well. King's Rook. Then the Kingstons are technically fitted for, but not with, dedicated degaussing gear, but money. Yeah. I really wouldn't like to be anywhere near a minefield in Kingston. I'm sorry, I just wouldn't. Have we finished? Yes, I think she's finished and now is safe. Samuel, sending in the SAS to hold some random low hill near Estonia from the Russians is going to be far worse for the SAS than it would an armoured battle group with Challengers. Yep. Or even a group with Boxer or APC, or any of modern APCs with some anti-tank missiles and the ability to move and fire from undercover. It'd be far better to have Challengers and Ajax. As I said, this is why I would build the structure I'd build if I was building the British Army. And I'd go, right, we will build 3 armoured brigades. They will be based around Ajax and Challenger. Boom, done. We will build 3 brigades based around the Super AV. One will be the Royal Marines. They're going to be deployed around the world in their sort of little, probably 4 of them, 4 battle groups. So I can keep them in their strike. I can keep them in their literal strike ships, and I can have 2 ready to deploy into the bigger LPDs to go out there and form up with whichever one's out there already deployed as a brigade. If I need to do a whole brigade entry anywhere, I'd have the paras as well, because frankly having 2 probably a third one in reserve, made up of reserves, but 2 frontline battalions that I can deploy, that I can out on high readiness, so I can deploy a battalion, surge it with light equipment somewhere, and then just go, we've got a battalion there now, the airfield is secure, and we can fly in a strike brigade as a battle group if we want to. That would make sense to me. That's how I would operate if I was thinking about it. But you have to make the expeditionary case for the army. Only 60-40, but the Russian winter sort of overwhelms any numbers that Napoleon was able to bring. Well, that's because Russian winter is the ultimate force multiplier. It's when you bring thermal underwear for your thermal underwear for your thermal underwear. Time. I mean, it's simple as that. Look at Germany's prime problem during World War II. No reserve cannon fodder whatsoever for Operation Barbarossa. USSR's prime strength, 15 million reservists. Strathable. Ew. They're not really reservists. They're just people given, occasionally 1 in 5 of them given a gun and one of the other 5 given the right bullets. It's not really draftable. That's just sent into battle with a machine gun behind you. Right. I'm going to finish up now because it is 5 to 10 and I need to head in. But as said, I will tap away on the computer and we'll fix up, put in all the details of the books used tonight, and hope you enjoyed them. So thank you very much, everyone, for watching. Reversa. Persians lost on numbers against the Greeks, but there are always exceptions. They won the first battle where they had overwhelming numbers. The next battle happens. The Greeks have fairly even numbers in terms of troops actually at the battle, because the Persians have had attrition and been delayed and had logistics issues thanks to the battle. First battle. Take care, Stafford. Take care, Nautic Wolf. Thank you, Bichon. Thank you, DGB40. Thank you, Calvin Gasberg. Thank you, Constratus and Greg Sussy. Thank you. Samuel, thank you. Alzaski, thank you. Thank you, everyone. And please always remember to like, subscribe, press the little bell down there. Maybe, I don't know, join the Discord, or join Patreon and suggest topics, which I will be posting I will do also tonight. I will post the choices from the ones suggested. Now, actually, I will do that tomorrow because I'll give people a bit more time to go through and make suggestions for topics, because there have been some great ones suggested. But if anyone else wants to suggest topics for the Patreon choice for next month, which is for March, please do. And thank you. Right. Thank you very much. Thank you, Trent Flenko. Thank you, Sadmiral. Thank you, Abzaski. Thank you, Johnson van der Velde. Okay, almost a heart attack about a classic gun to the back of the British Army. It wasn't everyone had it, but there were certain units which were deployed definitely like that. There were some which weren't. You have to remember the Russian army morale was a very interesting thing, and the troop quality was an interesting thing. Some units had very high morale and wouldn't need it, some did. And in some scenarios, they were literally pouring untrained conscripts straight off. Sometimes it worked. Sometimes it didn't. Sometimes they had issues. The Russian army is a very big army. There is a lot of different things going on different fronts. Take care. Karl Gasbert, Trentlenko, Rick Varsava, thank you. Rooksfoot, hello. Dutchman, thank you. Bart Foster, thank you. And Bud Guy, thank you. Right, I'm going to do that. Thank you very much, everyone. And as said, when you're next watching this in live in this office, there should be another sort of layer of shelf. Should be, at least. And as I said, then once I've got those 3 shelves up, then it's sort of a waiting game until I get the wood, because I want to make sure I have clear measurements before I order the marine ply, because I want it decent. Thank you, everyone, and thank you. Take care. Bye.